manager. He does.
He does have Romo, who just got traded to Minnesota, so that should help him out later on.
Well, Romo was the closer in Miami as well, so...
Right, but that's the point.
Yeah, and he moved to a team where he's going to be the closer.
He's lost saves.
Yeah.
Right.
He's on a winning team now, so they're gonna win ball games, and he's gonna get put into those high pressure safe situations.
Yeah.
You hope he does. You hope he does.
Sure. I mean, well, hell, Blake Parker's no longer a Minnesota Twin.
No.
Well, at least he's not.
At the end of the day, this was the week for Frank to play spoiler, and if he was going to, if he put down a loss to Ari's season probably is over. Like we said, Ari needs to win out. This was the opportunity to give Frank the chance to spoil. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
You get another chance here this week, Frank, because you've got another guy that's right on the fringe in Mike Sherman. Mike Sherman's another guy who needs to win out. He is at 157 wins. That is literally right at the cusp of where you need to be for the 6th seed. I don't even think my math is going to be right this year, given how many teams are grouped at the top. But if you put down if you put down Mike Sherman and get a win there, it all but puts a nail in his coffin. Especially if
it's a lopsided loss, you're probably right. I think if it's a close one, he's still around 5. I said this last week. I said if Mike Sherman, after 2 weeks, is 2 games over, he's only 2 stats over, he's in striking distance in the final 5. I know that to be true. I've seen it before.
And he's at 5. He's at 2 games over 500 right now.
Right. He needs to do it one more week.
Yep. Frank,
so basically, this is my week to spoil that.
You have more opportunities for that. I do know that you have maybe one. I think you have one against Chris Levy. Maybe someone else.
So you've got Mike Sherman this week. You've got Chris Levy in week 20. Your last 3 weeks are also weeks to spoil. So it's Chris Levy in week 20, Mike Haber in week 21, and James McCloskey in week 22. So you've got 4 opportunities to spoil over the next 6 weeks, and we'll see. Hopefully you can ruin somebody's season, but it starts right now against Mike Sherman, and we'll see how capable you are.
Well, let's hope the offense actually shows up this week.
Yeah. Frank, I appreciate you coming on and responding to my huge rant. I know you've got to get back to work at some point here. It's been about 45 minutes, so I don't want to hold you too long here. But we'll probably be ready to jump off to another matchup as well. Anything,
Frank?
Anything? Yeah.
Yes, thanks. No, firstly, I want to say, Frank, that was some hard hitting questions. I think you handled it with such grace. It's been a pleasure having you on. It's been a pleasure having you on in the league this year. And I think, regardless of all the wild moves, regardless of having 1,000 strikeouts, yes, you have 1,000 exactly strikeouts for the bats this year. But even with that, man, all the moves, you've done a pretty impressive job with your activity, and it's just been a pleasure. And thanks for coming on today.
No, it's been a pleasure being part of the league, and being a part of the league for years to come. And I enjoy talking to you boys, and it's always fun. Yep. And it is what it is. It happens, and you learn, you grow, you move on. The goal is to beat Joe in fantasy football in both leagues now. But I want to defend one thing.
Go ahead.
Carlos Correa did not play till Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you're aware.
Okay.
He came off the injured list on Friday, went 0 for 4. Obviously, there's rust there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back the following day and hits a grand slam. He goes 2 for 5 with 5 RBIs. The 5 RBIs came in one game. So, I'll just defend Carlos Correa there. He's been on my DL since May, or the massage injury.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done a pretty bang-up job. I'm in the basement, but the goal is to not be, and we'll see where everything goes from here.
You're still 9 games out of the consolation bracket. That would be That would be where I would be shooting for if I were you.
That's exactly what I'm shooting for.
All right.
That's exactly what I'm shooting for.
Frank, thank you so much for being on, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely,
buddy. Thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Frank, and like I say, every single week, if you guys want to come on the show, just like Frank does, just like James has in the past, and just like Mike Haber has, hit one of us up. I'll be happy to have you on. Benji, any final thoughts on Frank and Ari before we move forward?
Well, let's talk about it, man. Where do you think? I realize it's more about art. No, nothing personal to Frank. It's just that right now we're really got to talk about where Ari's season is right now, going into these last 6 weeks. I understand that his next matchup is Jimmy Dunlap, if I'm not mistaken, and if so, that is just that's it. You know, if he loses to a guy that's in the race, putting that guy closer to the top, that might be it for Ari.
Ari has every opportunity to. He really controls his own destiny here. Like you said, he's got Jimmy this week. He gets Nick next week, and then he runs that gauntlet of you, me, Bobby, and Jason.
Jason, he finishes the season with.
Yes, he does. That could be a play-in game. You know, that could end up being a play-in game depending on how he performs against Jason or against Jimmy, you, me, and Bobby. You know, if he runs he's won his last 3, and he's won his last 3 really convincingly. You know, against McCloskey and then Josh and Frank here. If he keeps that up, he's going to be dangerous. You've said it, he needs to win out. You know, he can't afford a loss at this point, but he's got a gauntlet to run through.
Maybe to Nick. If he loses amongst the guys that are not in the race, Nick. So if he could take a loss, if it's out of the next 6, if he loses 5 out of 6 and that's the one, there's probably still a chance.
Yeah.
He definitely needs help, though.
But he definitely needs help, and he needs the teams above him to start beating up on each other, which, ironically, we will. You, me, Bobby, and Jason, we're going to play round robin here at some point. And, you know, it's starting...
First round was this week.
Yeah. All right, let's jump to Jimmy Dunlap, who faced off with Jason Ashby this week. And, you know, it was number 1 versus number 7. And coming off of the big win that Jimmy had last week over me, I kind of half expected him to put the hammer down on Jason and make his season a bit more difficult, and that is not what happened here. Jason gets a 12-7 win, you know, and Jason pretty much dominated this matchup. You know, it went from 7-10 to 7-12 over the week, and it dipped as deep as 12-5 in Jason's favor. Close categories this week. Jason wins by a complete game. Jimmy wins by a loss. And they tied in triples, steals, and walks. Ironically, 0 triples, 2 steals, and 30 walks apiece. For Jason, who won the week, he went 10 for 45 on his bench. That's a .222 batting average. 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, 5 walks, and 11 strikeouts. The one thing I want to point out is Victor Robles on Sunday was on his bench. He went 3 for 4 with 2 runs, a double, a triple, and Nick Senzel went 0 for 3 in center field. Obviously, the triple would have won him a category. He also had 5 walks on his bench, which would have won the category since they tied. Otherwise, you know, it was a really good week for Jason. His team hit really well, 297 average and a 379 on base. You know, this is a team that, you know, we've talked about most of the season was going to win steals and triples because of Whit Merrifield and Victor Robles, and, you know, now he's got Jorge Polanco, and I know that guy is pretty quick. You know, he's got a lot of guys that should have won him those 2 categories, and he didn't win that, yet he still takes down a 12-7 win. Any thoughts there?
No, like you said, some of these close categories is just, I don't know if it's more brutal or more of like a thank God moment for each of these guys, because every stat at this point might matter to these 2 guys.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, if the law of averages play out go the way they're supposed to in these next couple weeks, Ari isn't supposed to be in the playoffs, and Mike Sherman isn't either.
No.
So let's go on the assumption that doesn't happen, just for now. Then we're talking about 8 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means 2 guys here are going to have a heartbreaking ending.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be something like 20 to 30 games over 500 and not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's really just what these 2 guys did, Jimmy included, just because he had that big win against you last week, turn another page and pull it off the schedule. You know,
Yeah.
and just continue to just stay afloat. Hope that big win is coming. Hope you're avoiding like a big lopsided double up loss.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy avoids that this time. Jimmy maybe needed to avoid that this time. So managing to tie in walks, managing to tie in stolen bases, you know, these little things. In the end of the day, it might make such a difference if a guy wins that like one stat. It's happened before.
Sure. Absolutely. I didn't see any roster moves on Jason's part that really stand out. Maybe picking up Travis d'Arnaud, but otherwise, it was a pretty.
What about a pitcher? Did he go after a starting pitcher this week?
He did. He picked up. Oh, yes, he did. As a matter of fact, I did mention that Jason won by a complete game. Do you know what the complete game was, Benny?
I have no idea. No, off the top of my head.
It's the Steven Matz start from Friday. He picked Steven Matz up.
Yeah, Matz. Oh,
He streamed Steven Matz, and that was an incredible pickup because it wins him that complete game. It certainly wins him ERA, as that was fairly close. You know, it was actually a really, really great pickup. You know, he also picked up Jake Junis, who didn't give him a good start. 6 innings, 6 earned. He went after Tommy Malone, who did not do well. So, I mean, he was trying. I think he was just trying to go after innings because that was something that Jimmy, like he did against me, just set the pace and set the pace so fast you can't keep up. And, you know, it looks like he was going after innings and wins, and he didn't get either. But he got that complete game, and that's the real key right there, along with lowering his ERA to where it sat at 4.23 to win the week. So he may not have gotten the innings and wins he wanted, but he still got 2 categories out of chasing those starts over the weekend.
Right, great managing from both of these guys.
Absolutely,
because Jimmy is hell-bent set on winning those innings, and when he fights you for, like you said, he's just ahead of you, and he stays ahead of you, and he makes it impossible. Because at that point you're thinking, why the hell am I going to try to keep up with this? Maybe I should try and use my moves and delegate it towards something else in this matchup. Jason tried, and at the end, the Matz pickup, it does end up mattering. Some of these other things that you mentioned, that the other pickups that he made, that cost him a little bit also possibly. But at the end of the day, you know, give him credit.
Yeah. For Jimmy, who did take the L this week, he went 14 for 44 on his bench. That's a .318 batting average. He had 5 runs, 6 doubles, a triple, a homer, 7 RBIs, 2 steals, 4 walks, 17 strikeouts, and 2 errors. 4 categories could have changed because of what was on his bench. He left 6 doubles on his bench. He lost doubles by 2. He left a triple on his bench.
Where was the opportunity to stick some doubles in there, though?
Let's see. He had Will Smith on his bench on Saturday and did not have a catcher playing. And Will Smith went 3 for 3 with a homer, 6 RBIs, and 2 doubles. There's his 2 doubles. Now, Will Smith was picked up on the 26th, which was the day before. And for whatever reason, he did not activate him off of the NA slot. Didn't drop a guy to get him in. Instead, he waited until Sunday when he dropped Nick Ramirez. And that got him into the lineup. That was the opportunity right there. Because that would have given him, you know, like I said, six RBIs, a homer, and 2 doubles. The doubles would have tied the category. The RBIs would have put him, you know, still 5 behind. And the homer still would have put him... Right.
It seemed like he'd have to be almost perfect to win RBIs.
Yeah, but he picked the thing about to be perfect to pick up RBIs would have been impossible. But the doubles was gettable. The doubles was gettable, and it was this move. His triple was early in the week. He left Scott Kingery on the bench on Tuesday, who went 1 for 7 with 4 strikeouts and an error, but the one was a triple. Do you fault him for that? I don't know, because I think in theory he got that right. It's just unfortunate that the one hit he got was a triple.
Yeah.
The two steals were the next day. Fletcher and Kingery each stole a base on his bench. But this one was Max Kepler, who didn't play in center field, and Kingery and Fletcher are both center field eligible.
I don't know about that one. That's weird. Was it a timing, a schedule thing?
It may have been. It was the only day that Kepler did not play. It may have been a scheduling thing. But there again, Fletcher plays on the West Coast, so more than likely his game was later.
Right.
At the time, Kingery.
There was opportunities to grab a walk here, anyway, from either of these guys.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There were 4 walks on his bench, so one of them at some point could have been grabbed. But yeah, definitely steals and definitely doubles were gettable for him this week. At the very least, to tie doubles was absolutely real, and it just didn't happen for him. It's unfortunate, but he still sits in second place or third place after this week. So he's still in good shape. And his schedule going forward, like I said, I think we said it was pretty favorable. He gets Ari this week. He gets Mike Sherman next week. He gets Uncle Barry. He gets Andy. He gets Chris Levy, and finishes the season with Mike Haber. The last 2 weeks aren't the best, but his next 4 weeks are pretty healthy. If he can stay at 500 through the next 2 weeks and get healthy against Uncle Barry and Andy, he'll be fine. Let's go ahead, unless you've got something else to jump in here. Let's jump to your matchup with Bobby.
You do Jason's bench?
I did Jason's bench.
Oh, okay, so key players.
Yeah, key players for the week. Jason, who won the week, we're going to give it to Andrew Benintendi, who last week, Benny, was your worst offensive performer of the week. This year, he's a key player. He hits .484 with a .500 on base, 9 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. That's exactly what you want to see from a guy that's an anchor of your lineup. He has a bad week. Okay, you shrug it off and you push it aside and you get something like this the next week. Jorge Polanco, who he traded for, 300 average, 353 on base, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. And finally, Anthony Rendon. I say it every week, the most underrated player in Major League Baseball, 320 average, 469 on base percentage, 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 6 walks, 5 strikeouts. Just a solid offensive week. Again, he hit 297, 379 on base. Those will compete every week against anybody. Pitching-wise, Carlos Martinez, I didn't like the Carlos Martinez draft pick early in the season. I know I talked to you about this. I was like, this is just bad. He's been hurt all season. And actually, Jason didn't draft him. Mike Sherman did. In any event, he got 3 relief appearances, 2 saves, 2 2/3 with a homer and a strikeout. The reason I highlight him is because he won by 2 saves, so that's absolutely the reason. Obviously, that
was worth the pickup right there.
Absolutely.
Carlos Martinez, he's been a solid pickup for him since he got him, just because of the role that he's in. But he's hammering it down and he's winning this category a decent amount now. So
yeah,
I give Jason a ton of credit for this pickup, because this could have been a wasted move during the week where he could have won another category. Stuck with the guy, and this is a miss from Michael, because Michael could have been winning saves a little bit more. Michael is 7-7-2 in saves. You think he's missing Carlos Martinez?
Probably a bit, probably quite a bit. We talked about it earlier.
Meanwhile, 11-4 in saves for Jason. So fairness.
And Jason, he's had Kirby Yates all season. He traded for Hector Neris. He traded for Raisel Iglesias. And now Carlos Martinez. He's put together a pretty decent bullpen. without
one of the reasons he's in the position that he's in, because he's been very 11-5 in ERA against his opponent, 13-3 in WHIP. These are numbers. 12-4 in strikeouts. These numbers stand out.
Yeah.
12-2 in wins, 12-4 in innings pitched, over 500 in losses at 8-7.
What about relief appearances? How is he there?
Okay, actually, surprisingly, 3-10-3 in relief appearances.
Wow.
Because he's sticking 5 guys that are closers. So then, therefore, they're only going to be coming in situationally.
Right.
Where some other bullpens are going to just have guys that are coming in 4 to 5 times a week. So that's the big difference there. You're sacrificing it, but you're getting good innings out of these relief pitchers. So
it's quality over quantity at the end of the day, yeah.
Bingo. In this case, it worked. That's his strategy. It's keeping the ERA low. It's keeping the WHIP low. And he's at least treading water with pitching his opponents. And then if he's going to hit 297 also, very tough to beat going forward.
Absolutely. We talked about it earlier, his second pitcher that I'm going to highlight, Steven Matz. I mean, he picked him up, gave him a complete game shutout with 7 strikeouts. You cannot ask for anything more than that. And it just amazes me that Steven Matz went to the bullpen recently. Like he was demoted out to the pen, had 2 relief appearances out there, comes back in, and has steadily improved every start since. 4 innings against Minnesota, 6 innings against San Francisco, and now this monster of a start. And he goes up against Pittsburgh again this week. So we'll see if he is able to give Jason another great start here. Finally, Reynaldo Lopez, who also gave him a great start, 8 innings. He did take the loss, but the loss was 2-0. Like, he only gave up 2 earned runs. So it's a 2.25 ERA, 10 strikeouts, a homer, and a walk. Reynaldo Lopez is a guy I had a lot last year, and you look at his numbers and they don't look great. He's got a 5.52 ERA on the season, a 1.45 WHIP. But this is the upside with this guy. His last 3 starts, 6 innings, nothing earned, 7 innings, 2 earned, 8 innings, 2 earned. That's the upside. And if he can go on a run like this, why can't he be the number 2 that Lucas Giolito needs? The White Sox are going to be really good, and it depends on their young pitching and their lineup. And this kid is going to be really good. It'll be interesting to see what he does the rest of the season. For Jimmy, David Fletcher did give him a good week, the missing stolen base notwithstanding. He hit .438 with a .471 on base, 2 runs, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and no strikeouts. Max Kepler gave him a good week, the day off notwithstanding. .231 batting average, .355 on base, 7 runs, a double, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And finally, Keston Hiura, who absolutely dominated me last week, comes back with a really decent week to follow up. .278 average, .409 on base, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 8 strikeouts. Pitching, now here's the thing. Jimmy didn't hit. He only hit .235 this week. He did have a great decent on base percentage at .340. If his team had hit a little better, that .340 could be upwards of .360, .370 and compete with what Jason had. His offense didn't come to play as well as he would have hoped, I'm sure. But he still competed. He tied 3 categories, 1 strikeouts and errors. He did it well enough to not take a beating there. You can point to Max Muncy's 133 on the week. You can point to Anthony Rizzo's 136 on the week. But where it really stands out is Alex Bregman, an .059 batting average for the week. Those 3 guys plummeted Jimmy's offense. Do you expect that every week? Absolutely not. This team is built to hit. And this is just one of those weeks where he got 3 of his big boppers to not hit all week. And it cost him. But I don't think this is indicative of something going forward. I think this is just an isolated thing, and he'll be fine.
Right, and I feel like, if anything, you'd rather have all three of them doing it at the same time versus, 1 week it's one guy, 1 week it's the next. If they're all bad now, maybe they all heat it up at the same time as well. So I take that, and I think this kind of a loss, a 12-7 at this point, where Jimmy is at, I'd certainly take, like you said, maybe some managerial decisions throughout the week are questionable. However, take this loss, especially from the week you had last week, there's gonna be some weeks like this where you're just gonna go cold and go 51 for 217.
Yeah.
To 235. It's tough. It's tough. But the on base, like you said, it's solid enough that it can go and compete. But 235, it might just be an anomaly.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I mean, last week Rizzo killed me. Muncy killed me. Bregman has been good all season. So those three guys, if they go cold for a week...
You're not benching those guys. You're never
absolutely
benching
not.
Those guys when they're cold.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He did lose Gary Sanchez, though, and that's a pretty big hit to take.
Sure.
So that's going to suck going forward. But if he can get, some production out of Will Smith, I think he'll be happy with it. Pitching-wise for Jimmy... Harlan Garcia gave him 3 clean relief appearances, 3 innings, and 3 strikeouts. I highlight him because he won relief appearances by 3. That's the only thing. He didn't pitch all that well, 4.54 ERA and a 1.43 WHIP, but he did win strikeouts. So I highlight the guys who have the highest strikeouts for him, and that's Matt Boyd, 12 1/3, 18 strikeouts, a 2.19 ERA, and a 1.05 WHIP with 5 walks and a homer. 2 starts come at home against Philadelphia and in Seattle. The Seattle start is the better one with 10 strikeouts over 6 1/3. He dominated. Like Matt Boyd, it's no surprise that the Tigers are shopping Matt Boyd if this is what he's going to put up. I'll be interested to see if he goes anywhere. And Lance Lynn gave him 8 strikeouts over 6 innings with a win, a 1.50 ERA, and a 1 WHIP. The start came against Oakland in the Coliseum. Everything right there says that that's going to be a good start. Pitcher's ballpark, team. Oakland is hot, but Lance Lynn has been really good. And, we've talked about it in past shows. This rotation that Jimmy has put together, there's no ace, there's no star, there's no, upper echelon guy. But it is a group of guys that will get this job done, and I'm sure the stats will prove this, that has been an above average to very, very good staff for him the entire season. Grinke, Castillo.
Inning eaters. Absolutely inning eaters. Regardless, whether it's an okay start, maybe even a bad start, they're going to be bulls, and they're going to pitch into the game. So you pick a group of guys, no special guy. Mike Minor is having a great season, but just a set of guys that are going to go out there and pitch a decent enough game to keep his team in the ball game. That's what it is.
And I take that back. His ace is Zach Greinke, who's having a wonderful season. 10 wins, a 2.87 ERA, and an 0.94 WHIP. That is a great season. Luis Castillo has had a good season as well. But again, these aren't the household names. These aren't the guys who went in the top 3 rounds to anchor a staff. He has put together 5 really good pitchers in Boyd, Minor, Castillo, Lynn, and Greinke, who would be, 2s and 3s on everybody else's staff.
Right.
Well, let's jump off of this one, and we're going to go to our once again back in first place team here, Benjamin. Do you know who's in first place this week?
Going into this week?
No.
Me?
Yeah, you're back in first place here after doubling up Bobby 14-7. Close categories this week for you. You won by a triple and a stolen base and a win. Bobby won by 2 walks, a loss, and .02 WHIP. You guys didn't tie in anything but complete games. On your bench this week, you went 6 for 34, which is a 176 batting average. 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The only thing that would have changed something there is the 3 walks. But there's, I don't see a way that you get all 3 of those walks into your lineup.
No. No, not without releasing something else that might have changed something.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
Exactly. If I look at the week for you, you benched Kyle Gibson on Tuesday. He was terrible. You benched whatever the hell a Colin Pooch is, his relief appearance in a loss. You benched Adam Wainwright, who did get you a win, but that doesn't matter. 5 innings, a 7.20 ERA. Your entire offense that day hit 162. It was just a bad day across the board for your team, and you're still able to come back and get this win. It looks like after about Wednesday, you made the decision, I think it was after the Tanaka start, that, you know what, you're going to eat up innings, you're going to get wins, you're going to get strikeouts, you're going to go after the stats you can. And on Sunday, you had a chance to go for it. And it may have cost you ERA and WHIP, but you were going for it. You were going for the jugular here against Bobby. Tell me about your week. Tell me about what happened, at least as far as pitching is concerned.
Oh, as far as pitching is concerned, and we could just go there. Yeah, I felt like I was playing pretty safe, but wise. You know, going into every single day, I wasn't gonna. Number one, I made sure that on Sunday I had some extra relievers going into Monday. So I had a pretty solid group going in for Monday. I knew that was it. Then on Tuesday, the guy that I thought wouldn't come into the game, the reliever, he came in and he was terrible. So I actually got lucky on that one. I just assumed that Cash wouldn't use them 2 consecutive days. So I got lucky there. I was trying to be careful with how I sat my guys, and Gibson, that turned out to be the right call. Wainwright, the same deal. I didn't like it. And then finally, I was so torn. I knew I'd have to get 37 innings somehow. I said, let me start with Tanaka. Tanaka, he was bad against Boston and London, but let me see. Maybe he can do it. And that was one of the worst starts. And not some of it, let me tell you something. A lot of times, a manager will pull a guy when they're this bad. I kind of felt like Aaron Boone hung Tanaka out to dry. He hung him out to dry for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is not a great way to keep somebody's confidence. If the guy thinks that he doesn't have it that day, maybe he feels like he should be taken out. That's number one. Number two, what are you doing to his ERA? I mean, I'm sure he's got the pitches. He can go 100 pitches or whatnot, but between this and London, that's 5 ERA. That's not his pitch. That's not this pitcher. That's not his baseball card.
No.
You're making a compilement of bad games that's ruining his ERA. I'm not a Yankee fan, but this is not his fault. You know, this happens when you run into an offense that has your number. So I took one on the chin for it, and it affected everything. Because it affected how I managed going forward. Go ahead.
To that point, and it's no secret, the Yankees have had some really awful starting pitching for, I don't know, basically since that London series, maybe? It sounds relatively, well, maybe at least the last week to week and a half, right? Tanaka goes out there and gives up 12 earned, but the Minnesota series, they had the 14-12 wild game and then a 10-7 follow-up the next day. And those were the 2 days preceding this. You talk about why did Aaron Boone leave him out to dry. I just don't think he had the choice. I think the bullpen was spent in the Minnesota series.
I understand that, man, but I don't know, 12 runs. It's tough. Eventually it went to the hook.
Yeah,
right?
And I think he was trying to get 5. If he could get 5 and have it not be a disgusting line, even if it's 8 earned runs over 5 innings, I think he takes that. The problem is Tanaka just did not have it that day. He gave up 7 in the first, and when he goes out and gives up 5 more in the fourth, he doesn't have a choice at that point. I think if Tanaka settles down, and even if it's 7-0 in the fifth, and Tanaka gets through 5, giving up the 7 or maybe one more to 8, they take that. And then they go to the bullpen again. But to have to put together another 6 2/3 or 5 2/3 of this out of this bullpen is going to tax them, and they're going to need that bullpen down the stretch to get them to the playoffs and eventually where they want to go, which is deep into the playoffs. So
I think they're going to the playoffs regardless. I mean, they'll get guys out of the minor leagues if they have to pitch innings and eat up innings. But I don't see them collapsing and losing this division title. I don't see it. I realize anything can happen in baseball, but the talent seems there. They have a good enough bullpen. I don't know. That's just what I see. Going forward, though, as bad as the Tanaka start was, I did what I could here. I picked up some guys on Saturday, Chichi Gonzalez, the two guys that started against each other in the Angels game. I figured, look, if I start them both, only one player can get the loss. In fact, they both got no decisions, and they both didn't pitch well. Yeah. But it all came down to Sunday night. It really, I got that win from Gibson that tied the category. I ended up getting a win from Treinen on Sunday about when the game was starting. The Red Sox game and Yankees game was starting. So at that point, I didn't see it necessarily gonna happen until the game started. And at that point, it was too late, and it's heartbreaking. Not only the loss, okay, I knew I was just gonna lose. If I sail, I win ERA, I win WHIP in spite of the Tanaka start. I end up losing those three categories. This could have been 16-6 match, 16-5, whatever it would have been.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, I end up losing those things because I had to get greedy. I wanted all those categories, and I didn't need any of them.
And you know what?
I just sat on it.
By that point, you had every right to be greedy. You were losing this matchup starting on Monday all the way through Friday. And it was you could point the finger right at Masahiro Tanaka as a lot of the reason you were losing this. And Saturday, you jumped it to 12-7, and Sunday, it jumped from there to 14-7. You improved 2 wins from Saturday's total coming into Sunday. Right. Even if Sale went out there, and he did, and got bombed, you're still a net positive from where you were initially. If he goes out there and throws you a gem, which he absolutely could, he's your ace, that's what you traded for him for, yeah, you could end up winning this thing 16-5 after being down, 11-7 and, 10-8 fairly late in the week. There was one other thing that I saw that I think we need to hit on.
Is it pitching or is it hitting?
It's hitting. Looks like Andy, back on the 23rd, dropped a player that you picked up, and as soon as I saw you pick him up, I went, son of a bitch, I really could have used that guy myself. Do you know who it is?
Is it Nunez?
No. Though he was fantastic for you as well.
Is it Smoke?
Nope. It's Nomar Mazara.
Okay.
Nomar Mazara isn't hitting as well as one would have expected coming into this season. But you know what? He's still hitting about the back of his baseball card. He's a 250, 260 hitter. He's going to hit 20 bombs and drive in anywhere from 65 to 90 runs. He's right on pace for every single one of those. And for whatever reason, the Rangers are like, yeah, I think we're going to release him, or we're going to send him down. Like, he had a bad month. Okay, he's playing back to his mean. You grabbed him, and all he did for you was hit 545 with a 583, a homer, and 3 RBIs and 4 runs. Yeah, I think you'll take that.
I was only wondering if he was going to play. Once I saw that he was playing, he was going to be my guy for the weekend. I picked up him, and I picked up Justin Smoke, and I said, these are my 2 guys now that are in free agency that I'm going to run with. And I'm going to, and I can see a bunch of strikeouts happening from them. But for right now, I like these matchups. Like, I like Justin Smoke against the Tampa Bay Rays, right, in Toronto. And it was poetry in motion when he hit the home run on Sunday for me. But the same thing, Mazara, it just seemed like a solid pickup when he's been so darn cold. He had a day off on Thursday. bam, pick him up. You know, he's a guy with a bat in his hand. I don't care how cold he's been. He's 23 years old or whatever, and I like to pick up at the time. So I was happy that no one else grabbed him, because I was just staring, thinking, like, when's he going to go? You know, Friday, maybe it's a light day for some people. They need a right fielder. No one touched him, and I jumped on it.
Yeah, I was debating about dropping Alex Dickerson for him, because Alex Dickerson doesn't play every day, and I kind of need a right fielder with Stanton out. But I just couldn't pull the trigger right away, and when I saw him go to you, I was like, God damn it, that I should have pulled the trigger on that. So credit where it's due on that for picking him up. Let's jump over to Bobby's team. He hit 7 for 41 on his bench. That's a 171 batting average. 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, and an error. The one thing I found interesting, he missed 3 straight Alex Claudio relief appearances. At the end of the day, he wasn't going to compete with you in relief appearances. But those relief appearances could have lowered his whip, could have lowered his ERA, would have, helped out a lot. And he just didn't play the guy. And that's a guy that, is pretty high on the list. I agree. Because at the end of the day, he did have 1 bad relief appearance, which may have affected ERA differently.
Right.
The only other thing was Brian Anderson on Sunday went 2 for 4 with a run and a homer. It looks like a solo homer. And Matt Chapman was 0 for 4 at third base. He's not making that move. Matt Chapman's a guy he traded for, and he gave up a pretty solid piece to get him. Anderson is a bench bat. But the thing is, he only lost runs by 3. He left 3 runs on his bench. There's not really a way to get him in, because the one day he got a run, the guy went 0 for 4, and the only way he got on base was because of a walk. So, he wasn't going to win that category. At the end of the day, Bobby's offense did not play up to what I think he expects. Josh Bell, Mike Trout, Kettle Marte, these guys all hit. They just didn't hit the way you'd expect. They all hit in the 260s or 250s. Combined, they only hit 3 homers. It was just it was a weird week for Bobby, where he only hits 250, and he wins walks and damn near wins on base percentage because of it. But it just wasn't the power week you expect to see out of this team. And I think he can hold his head high taking this loss where he did. He still sits outside the top 6, though. He still sits right at that cusp. And that's got to be bugging him at this point, because he keeps inching himself right there. He keeps banging on that glass ceiling like, hey, let me in, and he just can't make it. And he now sits 4 games back. It's well within striking distance. It's well within striking distance of getting into the top 6. But I think there's something to be said where week after week you keep trying, and for whatever reason you can't bust through. He's watched Jason pass him by now. And he still sits on the outside looking in. Your thoughts on that?
Well, to me, firstly, I just gave him 3 stats from making a bad start on Sunday. Like you said, he can, leave this matchup feeling somewhat positive. I batted 272. I'm not saying that's great, but that's in spite of an 0 for 7 from Greg Allen pickup in an extra inning game. If I don't have that going, I bat somewhere in the 290s, man. I think I had, for what my offense generally does, this was more impressive than what I think. My team generally doesn't go over 10 home runs. It did. I do think that I was kind of I was surprised looking at Bobby's team every day and saying, why is his batting average so low? Why isn't I'm expecting it? I'm waiting for him to have an explosive day. I also kind of got lucky. Josh Bell didn't start on Sunday. As far as where he stands in the standings, I'm not. If I'm him, I'm not concerned. We've talked about this in the past. How the time is running out. You don't know if you're going to be on the outside looking in with Bobby. Where's his team at? It's a good team. He's a great manager. He's playing every day. Just waiting for that big win. All he's got to do is just tread water. Again, rip that other card off the schedule and get a little bit closer to the end here. But right now, his schedule, he can do it. He's got James this week. Then he's got you, right?
Yep.
And then he's got Jason Ashby.
And then he's got Ari and Mike Sherman, and finishes up with Uncle Barry.
Barry, yeah, absolutely. That's a schedule you could sign up for. He's got guys that are kind of in the race that if he beats them, he goes in front a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
He's got guys that are at the bottom that he can pick on. It's where he wants to be. I'd like to think that if I were Bobby, I would sign up for this at this point. I mean, the guy is, 17 over 500?
Yeah, 17 over. Here's what I'll say, though. If I'm Bobby, I want to be in 6th or better and have some sort of cushion going into that game against Uncle Barry in Week 22.
Sure.
Because Uncle Barry will look to spoil. That is a trap game that is scary if that were on my schedule. I would want, in the 4 weeks that I have, that Bobby has me, Jason, Ari, and Mike Sherman, those 4 teams in the race, I would want to get healthy, get into the playoffs, and get to like 5th with a couple of games separating me from 7th place when I go into that matchup with Barry, because that has every bit of a making of a matchup that can ruin his season. And I'm not saying it will, but it has every sign and symptom of it.
All right, I have a question that's sort of on, sort of off topic.
Sure.
What is Chris Levy? Who does he play in the final week?
Chris Levy plays Nick.
Okay. And who does Mike Haber play? Is it Jimmy?
Mike Haber plays Jimmy Dunlap.
Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out all those teams that are sort of like treading towards like in that range. Will somebody be playing somebody else that's in the race, where someone might end up falling out and someone goes in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have Mike Sherman. You have Andy. Bobby, like we said, has Uncle Barry. Jason has Ari. That could be interesting if Ari plays as strong as he has. Like I said, Chris has Nick. Mike Sherman has Jimmy. That could be interesting. A lopsided win for one of them could knock the other out.
Wait, Mike Sherman has Jimmy?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mike Haber has Jimmy.
Right.
Mike Haber and Jimmy could be a play-in game. James McCloskey, I think, has the upper hand in having Frank. Those are your playoff teams, and those are their opponents. It's 2 matchups that could be play-in games, and a whole lot of opportunity for spoiling. Let's jump to key players this week between you and Bobby. For you who won the week, Benny, we'll start there. You hit on him, and we sort of glossed over it, but Renato Nunez was really good for you, and this is a guy who was on Bobby's team earlier this year, and I found it funny when he dropped him. He dropped him back in April, and I said, Bobby, this guy's doing well for you. For this week for you, he went 375 with a 500 on base, 7 runs, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 walks, and 6 strikeouts. That's huge. You won by 3 homers. You won by 7 RBIs. That's it right there.
Right, the 3 runs also.
Yeah, he gave you 7 of them. That was it. That's huge. Trey Turner gave you another good week. Another proof that trade is everything you wanted it to be. 367 average, 424 on base. 6 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 3 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And finally, I hit on him, Nomar Mazara. Good pickup this week. 545 average, 583 on base, 4 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Offensively,
3 days too,
and only in 3 days. But again, those 4 runs he got you is what wins that category. Renato Nunez gives you the homer and RBIs, and Nomar Mazara gives you the runs. There's no 2 ways about that. Pitching wise, and it was a rough week for you, Benny, but there are some aces, there's some diamonds in this rough. Michael Lorenzen, 4 relief appearances, nothing earned. 5 walks you don't like to see, but 3 strikeouts. It's a 1.38 whip. Kyle Gibson did give you a good start after you benched him early in the week. 6 innings and a win, 9 strikeouts with a walk against the White Sox. And Chris Sale, though he blew it for you on Sunday, still gave you 11 and a third with a win. He gave up 3 homers and 6 walks, but 17 big strikeouts, which did give you the strikeouts category and the win. So, this is your ace. You're going to ride or die with him. And, this week he killed you on Sunday, but he definitely put you in it.
It absolutely killed. And let me tell you something, man. This is about the 5th week in a row that we're talking about. If I just decided to, not start him, or if I just decided to play Kevin Newman on Sunday, or if I just decided to, after picking up Marco Gonzalez for that night game for the Mariners, playing him, instead I drop him, there's another category. And the piling up, Joe, and I understand it's a win, I understand that I've had this streak, but there's no guarantees when we're all so close. We need every single stat at this point, and I keep on looking at this and thinking that, at the end of the day, they all add up. They all add up, and every stat matters. So if I'm playing, even if I make the playoffs, but I get the 3 spot, Joe, and I could have gotten the 2 spot, there's a huge difference. Sign your check for the Final 4, that's what I'd like to do. And obviously, goal is get in. Just get in. If you make the playoffs, anyone's got a shot. You've won it now twice from not being in the... did you have the bye last year?
I did not have the bye last year. I came in as the 3 or the 4. The year before, though, I did have the bye.
You played Andy 2 years in a row in the first round matchup, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, for you, it didn't matter that you didn't have the bye, but, man, it does make a huge difference to sign your check for the Final 4. So, to me at this point, like, again, the pitching, it's a heartbreaker here, because I had, even with the horrible Soro Tanaka, I managed the crap out of this thing all the way to the last freaking game, man. And to give away 3 stats like that, I understand a win is a win, a double-up win. If I play Bobby in the playoffs, a tiebreaker gives me the win now, because he won on the first week against me 11-7. My week is bigger, so, therefore, I would take him on the tiebreaker. It's still not enough for me, man. I want every stat. I love Bobby. I'm happy that he was able to, at least grab those back, but that's a little tough.
Sure. I agree. For Bobby's team, I owed an apology to Brian Dozier. This week, I have to highlight him as a key player. 261 average, 370 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Dude's been good. For, 2-3 weeks now. And if you're going to add him to a team with Ketel Marte and Mike Trout and, Matt Chapman and Josh Bell, that's pretty formidable. I do bring up Mike Trout, and he is the second player of the week for him. 269 average, 333 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And finally, Ketel Marte, 273 average, 407 on base, 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 5 walks, and 6 strikeouts. The thing that you're noticing, though, each guy that I'm highlighting, they're not overwhelming stats, right? It's a 269 average, a 261 average, it's a 273 average. That's not what Bobby's looking for in these stars that he has. Granted, he got a great week from Lorenzo Cain, but it didn't come with the counting stats, right? Lorenzo Cain hit 320, but it doesn't come with any counting stats. Robinson Chirinos, 462 average, no counting stats. He scored 5 runs. That's it as far as counting stats are concerned. Right,
and then you think about Mike Trout. He kind of had those counting stats, what you expect from Mike Trout with the 5 runs, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. But he actually only batted 269. I know that's not awful, but it's just.
But it's not Mike Trout. That's
right.
Pitching-wise for Bobby, it's the same guys that I highlight just about every week on this team. We're going to start at Garrett Cole, 14 innings, 18 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and an 0.71 WHIP. Noah Syndergaard, 7 innings. He did take the loss with 5 walks, but 8 strikeouts, a 3.86 ERA, and a 1.86 WHIP. And Sean Doolittle. Doolittle had 2 relief appearances and 2 saves. I highlight that guy not because, he won saves or relief appearances. He wasn't going to. He was up against you.
Oh.
But it was the cleanest reliever that he had. 2 innings, all clean, 3 strikeouts. Unless I'm counting Javi Guerra's 1 relief appearance, this was the guy. And, everybody else gave up a bunch of runs, top to bottom in his bullpen. So that's where I leave it. Going forward, we've already hit on the schedule for both you, for you and for you down the stretch. But starting this week, you get me, and then you get Jason, and then you get Ari, and then you get Mike Sherman, and then you get Uncle Barry, and you finish with Andy. That's a pretty rough schedule going forward, Benny. How do you feel about it?
It's rough, but the fortunate part of it, though, is that after this week and next week against Jason, everybody else is underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm in first. I'm just saying, everyone else is not necessarily in the race, and especially Ari or Sherman will know by the time I'm playing against them if they're still in the race, right? So at that point, I'd rather let you guys play each other, beat up on each other, and I just have to take care of business. And even if I lose in those weeks, I might still be able to catch a playoff spot. So I'm actually fortunate that these guys aren't in the race with me necessarily on the stretch. I got to still deal with you. I still got to deal with Jason. Those are going to be very tough matchups. But I'm actually feeling pretty comfortable if I can get through this week and next week. That I'm not saying that playoff spot is almost secured, but it's pretty darn close at this point. So
yeah, you get it.
I'm just going to continue to.
You get wins in the next 3 weeks, and I think you're in. You beat me and Jason and Ari, you're in.
Yeah, I think I just needed to stick to my strategy, things that have been working for me this far. I have this pretty solid streak going. I've only lost 1 week in the last 14, so I'm doing something right now. And I gotta stick to my guns, the players, and the types of guys that I don't know. Look, obviously, the move like Greg Allen could end up killing you. When you go for that. Hey, one of your moves is a guy that goes 0 for 7. Requires such a huge climb for me to grab average and on base percentage, but the team picked me up, and it just sometimes those things are going to happen. And in this case, I think a little bit of management with a lot of luck, and I'll be exactly where I want to be in the next few weeks.
Fantastic. Let's jump to the next matchup. It's going to be James McCloskey, Stanton Room Only, who took on Barry Nisman, who changed his name, I think, twice this week. It was like Holy Goldschmidt, and now it's Goldilocks in. Barry picks up a pretty interesting win here, 11-8. Close categories. Barry wins by 2 runs, 2 walks, a homer given up by a pitcher, a walk given up by a pitcher, and 2 relief appearances. James wins by a loss, and they tied in doubles and triples. For Uncle Barry, who won the week, he went 8 for 37. That's a .216 batting average. 6 runs, a double, a triple, 4 RBIs, 3 steals, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. Obviously, the double and the triple could have changed things because they tied in both those categories. The triple comes from Phillip Ervin on Tuesday, and he didn't start the game, so there's no way that he's going to be playing him if he's not starting. The double also comes from Phillip Ervin the next day, along with a steal, and he goes 2 for 4 on the bench. And Leury Garcia went 1 for 4 with a strikeout in right field.
Right, who was Garcia facing that day?
Exactly.
Who was Irvin facing that day? I mean, there's so many things on a Wednesday we can start to try and criticize why he made that play, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
And here's the other thing. That same day, Manny Margot stole 2 bases, but he went 0 for 3. And the entire outfield hit. So I can't fault Uncle Barry for benching who he did. At the end of the day, he missed a double, a triple, and 3 steals, and the double and the triple would have won it for him. The 3 steals would have tied it for him, but he would have had to be perfect, and we can't expect perfection here. It's not that type of game. He did, however, bench Trevor Williams against the Mets. It was a good start, and he benched is that Chase Anderson, 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, a .360 ERA. By that point, he was already well behind in a lot of the pitching stats. There wasn't really a reason to start them, so I can understand the benchings. By and large, it was a lot of relief appearances that he was chasing, and he got them. He got quite a few of them. He was also chasing a catcher most of the week, and got a fairly decent production. I mean, Roberto Perez didn't produce for him. Jason Castro didn't produce very well for him. Josh Phegley didn't produce for him. But he got Jacob Stallings, who homered in the one game he had him in, and doubled. So if you get that out of your catcher position, rotating out 4 or 5 different guys, I think you'll take that.
Impressive.
Mm-hmm. For James, here's something incredible. James went 0 for 1 on his bench this week. That's it. He just managed to set his lineup with the guys who were available, and there was nothing on his bench all week. It was pretty amazing. James led this matchup up to Tuesday, and then after that it was kind of where it finished, right? It went 9-11, it bounced between 8-12, 9-11, and 8-11 for the rest of the week, and this is where it ended up. He had to drop Joey Gallo, which probably hurts quite a bit given the season that he's had. I can understand that it's a hamate bone injury. He's got a bunch of guys on the DL right now between Yandy Diaz and CJ Cron and Corey Kluber and Ross Stripling and Jameson Taillon. So, he can't hold another guy on the DL, and he has to move off of him. Gene Segura has been hurt as well. So he needs these roster spots, and that's why the Joey Gallo drop hurts. With the hamate bone injury, you saw it with Matt Olson. He got hurt. He went away for about 5 or 6 weeks, came back, and is hit very well. I just don't think James has 5 or 6 weeks to wait on that guy, too, since he's waiting on pitching. And now Yandy Diaz and CJ Cron. There's just too many injuries here, and they're starting to pile up. And they've piled up all season. This is a team that we've been saying all season, once they get healthy, once they get healthy, once they get healthy. What if he never gets healthy? Key players this week, unless you've got something to jump in on.
No, please, go ahead.
All right, key players this week for Barry, who won the week. We've been waiting all season to see it, and here it is. Paul Goldschmidt had himself a week, a .345 average, a .387 on base, 9 runs, 6 homers, 13 RBIs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. This is what you paid for when you bought him in the first round, and it's finally coming. He homered in 6 straight.
Home runs. What do you have? Home runs 5 straight days? 6
straight.
6 straight days now.
6 straight, and that is an absolute killer when you get 6 straight days with a homer and win homers by 4. James put up his homers. James came to play, and it took this streak from Paul Goldschmidt for Barry to win those homers. And the RBIs, for that matter.
And most of these offensive categories.
Yeah. Xander Bogaerts gave him a good week as well. .387 average, .441 on base, 10 runs, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. The 5 doubles is the thing that I highlight with him because, again, he needed every single one of these doubles to tie. And the 10 runs, he only won runs by 2. So his offense was carried by about 3 guys in Goldschmidt, Bogaerts, and the guy I'm about to highlight in Starling Marte, who hit .367 with a .387 on base, 8 runs, 5 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 6 strikeouts, and an error. This offense, outside of those 3 guys and Yuli Gurriel, who was very good, didn't hit very well. Yuli Gurriel had a good week. Hanser Alberto played well for him. But, you point to a guy like Manny Margot. Wait a minute, what the fuck am I talking about? He hit .341 this week. Every single guy hit. Andrelton Simmons was difficult. Ryan Braun was difficult. everybody else hit. 341 average, 397 on base for the week. That's killer.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of us get over 400 with the on-base percentage,
right.
But a 341 average that's just way too tough.
That's gross. Yeah. I'm looking right now to see what the best single season or single week. So for this year, it is the second best single week batting average. James Santangelo put up a 355 earlier this year.
Wow.
However, Uncle Barry holds the all-time record at 391 back in 2016.
Awesome. That is a great stat. And he made the playoffs that year.
Yep. Anyway, pitching-wise for Uncle Barry, Adam Simber gave him a ton of relief appearances. Where is he? 3 relief appearances, 4 1/3, 2 strikeouts, an 0.92 whip. The relief appearances is what I highlight here. He didn't pitch particularly well. The 5.15 ERA was not great. Trevor Williams did give him a good start, despite benching him against the Mets. He did have a 5 innings, no decision, 7 strikeouts, 1.80 ERA, and a 1.40 whip against St. Louis. And Anibal Sanchez, who every time I see this guy be a key player for Uncle Barry, I regret dropping him when I did. 7 innings, a walk, 6 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and an 0.57 whip. The start was against the Dodgers of all teams. Just crippling for me. Just to see Anibal Sanchez, a guy that you didn't expect to have a 3.63 ERA this season. You know, he had a good season for Atlanta last year and signed a decent deal with the Nationals, and thought, okay, this is a type of deal where he comes off of a good season and he's bad this year, and then goes somewhere on a small deal and has a good year and gets paid. You know, like this is that type of guy. And he's putting it together.
Journeyman type of pitcher, around our age, like 34, maybe 33 or 34 years old. But he needed him. He needed all these guys. One of the things you didn't mention are the close stats. One of them was strikeouts, Joe. You only won it by 3 at Uncle Barry. So give credit where credit is due. Even though the ERA was pretty terrible at 5.15, unfortunately, because James has a 2.62 ERA and an impressive 1.15 whip, and can't end up winning the week with those stats. But you know, at the end of the day, Uncle Barry did what he had to do to at least grab that strikeout stat and a couple others here.
Yeah, we'll actually jump to James's team here. Jonathan VR has been really quietly an unsung hero for this team. You know, on a team with so much power, Johnny VR is the guy that has been stealing bags and stealing stats at the same time. He's got 22 steals on the season. Johnny VR hit 303 this week with a 361 on base, 9 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 5 steals, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts you don't like to see. But again, this guy has been really good for James this season. Really good this week, and he's back. It's Jose Ramirez. 400 average, 441 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. He's been lights out for about 3 weeks now. He's been, I heard this on a podcast I was listening to on the way home from work this morning. He's been the number 6 player in baseball, in fantasy baseball, over the last month.
Wow.
It's exactly what James needed. It's exactly what James bought into. And here it is. Like, he's riding this guy while he's hot. Finally, Michael Conforto gave him a good week. 261 average, 320 on base, 3 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Just a fantastic week, and yet it's still not close when it comes to offensive categories. You know, he won steals. Great. Johnny VR won him steals single-handedly. And Uncle Barry had 8 errors. That might be a record, but it isn't. But, you know, offensively, this team is going to come to play. James is going to come to play every week with his power, with his hitting, and we'll see where he is.
Speed. And now with his
yeah.
I mean, fact of the matter is now he's got a couple of guys that run the bases on the consistent bases.
Yeah.
He can even score. He's in the top 5 in runs here, and he's in the top 3 in stolen bases. He's tied with Michael Sherman with 80. Can you guess who's at the top stolen bases total?
Is it Jason?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, and Jason's also the best on head-to-head matchups with stolen bases, I believe. But look, to me, this is still a very good offense. You know, it can be a pretty solid pitching. It's very unfortunate what happens, James, and tip your cap to Uncle Barry here to make the spoil happen.
Yeah. Pitching wise for James, I hate to say this, but Hansel Robles continues to be Hansel Robles. 3 relief appearances, 2 saves, a 6 ERA and a 1.67 ERA or a WHIP. You don't like to see that. But when he wins the saves category 4-0, you have to point out that Hansel Robles was the guy. Eduardo Rodriguez is the one that hurts more than Hansel Robles. 12 2/3, 2 wins, 11 strikeouts, a 2.13 ERA, a 1.26 WHIP, 7 walks you don't like to see in a homer. But the 2 wins, this guy's got 13 wins now. And he's won his last 5 starts. He's won every single one. He hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in a start over his last 6. That hurts to see a lot. Because this was a guy I thought would be doing this all season. And when he wasn't, was absolutely a guy I was like, I have to move off from him. I have to move on from him.
That's why you're saying this hurts, because I was like, this guy's pitching well. Why does this hurt? But I didn't
it hurts to see it because these are the guys I traded in that Stanton deal. And if I don't make the playoffs this year, that's the reason why. And a guy like James will benefit from it. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. If he makes the playoffs and I don't, that's the reason why. He's been fantastic all season, and Marco Gonzalez is the last guy. 14 innings, 2 wins, 12 strikeouts, a 1.93 and an 0.93 WHIP. That's a guy he picked up off of waivers. That's been on God knows how many guys' teams, and yet he said, he goes, I'm picking up Marco Gonzalez. He's got 10 wins. He might have 4 or 5 more. I'd like to get those. He got 2 of them right here. He called it.
Wow, yeah, great job. Just an awesome pickup. He's been really good lately.
Absolutely. This is all of these guys are not to discredit Brad Keller, who had 7 innings, a shutout ball, and a win. Hyun-Jin Ryu, 6 2/3, 1.35 ERA. This is a staff that it's gross sometimes with weeks like this, where he pitches to a 2.62 over 65 innings.
Yeah, and if you can get Kluber back, let's say for hypothetical sake, he makes the playoffs, and then he gets Kluber in September for his playoff run, something like that. So a very dangerous team all around. You wonder if the offense didn't come to play, how dangerous it can be when everyone hits. So
exactly.
I guess we'll see what happens. We know that James has a pretty favorable schedule going forward.
He does. I think we hit on it once already, but we'll hit on it again. He's got Andy this week. 2 tough matchups in Chris and Mike Hader, and then it's the easiest 3 weeks I think any contending team has in James Santangelo, Josh, and Frank to finish out his season.
Yeah, wow.
He could very well.
It's a good road if he can get through the first 3.
Yeah, and not that Andy has been not competing, but Andy's another team that's toward the bottom of the standings. So 4 of his final 6 weeks are against guys at the bottom. This could be the team that, because of the scheduling, ends up as the 1 or 2 seed. Where he bumps out a guy like you or Mike Haber or
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, with that said, let's jump to Mike Haber's matchup this week. He took on the aforementioned Andy, and Mike put the hammer down. 15-4 win here. Mike wins by 2 doubles, a triple, .003 batting average, and 2 strikeouts by a pitcher. Andy wins by 2 wins and 2 saves, and they tied in stolen bases with 0 apiece and losses. For Mike on his bench, he went 15 for 62. That's a 242 batting average. 5 runs, 5 doubles, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 walks, 16 strikeouts, and 2 errors. You hear all of those stats, right? Didn't matter. He won every single one of those categories. And fairly convincingly. The doubles, okay, if he gets 3 more, then it's kind of a blowout. But at the end of the day, he dominated this matchup. He got Didi Gregorius going 5 for 5 with 7 RBIs on Tuesday. And that jump-started the week. His pitching went...
Every hit was necessary for a batting average that was this close. So 275 to 272. We had a couple of these this week where the batting average or on base was just, only a couple of hits or even 1 hit difference. So I'll give Mike Haber a lot of credit here because he did have to fight a spoiler team that was really fighting against him. Yeah. And he just held it down. I feel like there was never a point where Andy was even close this whole week. No.
It started out 12-5 on Monday, and it was 15-3, 15-3, 14-4, 14-5. Like, Mike got out in front and just stiff-armed Andy the whole way. Like, you're going to stay back there. I'm going to get a big win here, and I'm going to jump up the standings. And he did. He jumped all the way to second place. And he's only 2 games behind you. And that throws a huge wrench into everybody behind him, who was like, well, if he's back in the 6th seed, then he can be the guy fighting it out with Bobby and Chris. Well, that's no longer the case. It's going to take a bad week now for Mike, whereas he can just, if he can tread water, like you like to say, if he can tread water, he'll be there. And this was a big, big win for him.
No, for me at least, I think we're talking right now about a definite playoff team. I'm ready to say it, man. I call it a not so bold prediction. I say Mike Haber is in the playoffs, and I'll be as bold as saying we're talking about our first Final Four appearance guy. I do think at the end of the season this guy is 1 or 2. He's got the 3 T's. He's got the tools, the talent, and the team. He's got all 3, man. And I looked at his schedule also, and it seems fairly favorable for him going down the stretch. I don't think he's going to see too many problems going forward. I can see him just running through this thing all the way to the top.
He kind of alternates between contender and non-contender. He's got Chris Levy this week, then has James Santangelo, but then gets James McCloskey, gets the 2 bottom guys in Josh and Frank, and finishes the season with Jimmy. It's a good way to tread water. You get even if he loses this week to Chris, he can get it all back against James. He's on a really good 4-game winning streak as well. After that sort of lull in the middle that he was really concerned about his team, he lost 4 or 5 and tied with you. I know he was really concerned at that point. But here he is, rattled off 4 straight wins against Ari and Sherman and Uncle Barry and now Andy. 12-6, 11-8, 12-9, 15-4. That's a great month. That's a fantastic month. And it jumped him right back to the top of the standings where he was earlier this year. And like we said, the rest of his schedule is pretty favorable.
Andy's bench.
I could talk about other things that Mike messed up on, like Paul DeYoung 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 with 3 homers. But what's the point? He won, and he won big.
He won all of them. Yeah. He won every stat we're talking about.
Yeah. On Andy's bench, 6 for 42. That's a 143 batting average. 2 runs, an RBI, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an error. None of that matters. None of it would have changed anything. Even the Tyler O'Neill 2 for 3 with a walk on the bench while Nelson Cruz is 0 for 3. Doesn't matter. He's not making that change anyway, and it doesn't alter the outcome. At the end of the day, Andy's team hit, and you look at the stats and you're like, that could compete on a lot of weeks. 12 homers, 40 RBIs, 16 doubles, 33 runs. Those stats will compete. But man, he just ran into a locomotive who was heading to the top, and that's where Mike is. Andy did drop Nomar Mazara earlier this week. That helped you, and he dropped him for Mitch Moreland, who he then dropped the next day for Carson Kelly. It kind of hurts to see that, especially with what, you turned Nomar Mazara into in a weekend. So maybe if we put those Nomar Mazara stats on his team, maybe he does win average and on-base percentage and maybe one more.
Yeah.
So that's a difficult thing to see. But otherwise, sometimes you just run into a team who's ridiculously hot while you're hitting well. And I think that's what happened here. For Andy, unfortunately, we talked about it last week, and I told Andy, go out and win every single week 20-1 and come play in the playoffs. This, if it wasn't before, is the nail in his coffin. His season's done. He's 47 back. He's 45 games under 500.
46.
Yeah.
Yeah, 46 under, yeah.
He's done. Now, he needs to get back into the consolation bracket if he wants to play for something. That would be something to do. He's only 4 back there. But yeah, I love the guts and the drive to get there. It's just not happening this season, and that's unfortunate because Andy is a really good manager, and I think he's just run into some tough luck as far as his schedule is concerned. You look at this guy's schedule. This beating from Mike Haber, and the beating from Mike Sherman a month ago, and the beating from Ari the week before, and he took a beating from Josh Haber in week 3. Like, you look at this, and it's too many lopsided losses, and there just aren't enough lopsided wins to balance it out.
No. And you're like you said, this is a great manager, and he has run into some tough teams when he's played them, but also maybe some unfortunate trades. Maybe the Rendon move ends up turning into blowing in his face. Maybe he should have kept Verlander.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's hard to say now.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is he played against some tough teams this year, and it's showing.
Yeah. He's lost 5 of his last 6, and 3 of those losses, 3 of those 5 were blowouts, like big blowouts.
Right.
Let's jump to key players. For Mike's team who won the week, Didi Gregorius, 423 average, 448 on base, 5 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 13 RBIs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, and 2 errors. Just a monster week. Eugenio Suarez gave him a good week as well. 286 average, 318 on base, 5 runs, a double, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, and 6 strikeouts. And Mookie Betts, who hasn't been on this list as much as you would have thought coming into the season, but this week was good for him. 276, 324 on base, 9 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts.
Yeah, he had all those 3 homers in one game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do when an opponent has 17 home runs in one?
Yeah.
It's tough. Like we said, even James McCloskey, he had 10 home runs, and he had 12.
Yeah.
He had 40 RBIs. Like,
that's what I said. Like, this stat line,
33 runs would have definitely competed with me and a couple of teams. It was just too much to take.
Yeah. Like I said, this stat line would compete against a ton of guys any given week. Maybe not the 5.68 ERA, maybe not the 1.49 WHIP, maybe not the 20 walks, but the offense would come to play. And could I see, if it was a different team on a different week, this being a 10-9 matchup? Sure. But this is what you ran into, and yeah, definitely hurts. Mike's pitching, I'm going to give it to Aaron Nola, 13 2/3 with a win, 2 homers, 4 walks, 15 strikeouts, 3.29 ERA, 1.10 WHIP. Madison Bumgarner, 14 innings with a win, a homer, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts, 4.50 ERA, an 0.93 WHIP. And finally, Tommy Kahnle gave him 4 relief appearances, which is 4 1/3 with 8 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, and 0.23 WHIP. Mike won relief appearances. He won ERA. He won strikeouts. You look up and down this week. It wasn't a fantastic week, right? He did have some bad starts from John Means, but overall, it was just solid enough to stay where he needed to be. There's nobody other than the mean start that's an outlier of, oh my God, he gave up 6 runs over 3 innings. Like, it's not there. They're all just decent enough to get him a win in almost every pitching category. For Andy, he did have a fantastic week from Nelson Cruz. 414 average, 485 on base, 10 runs, a double, 7 homers, 13 RBIs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. That's as amazing a week as you could possibly want out of somebody. And it doesn't get him any wins anywhere. Corey Seager backed him up with a 353 average, a 400 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, a homer, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And Rafi Devers, 394 average, 429 on base, 9 runs, 7 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. These are great stat lines from a ton of guys. And he doesn't win a single counting stat. The only stats he won offensively were strikeouts and errors. That hurts. You know, you point to a guy like Marwin Gonzalez, who his team is named after, hit 182 this week. You know, Ramon Laureano had 8 strikeouts. Eric Sogard, who is now apparently a Tampa Bay Ray, random, you know, he hit 222 for the week. These aren't names that, like, jump out at you as, oh my God, I need to be starting these guys every day. But they're the complementary players to Andy's team, and they just didn't come through for him. And that's disappointing.
Right, you just need one, it's just one extra hit would have needed, a 14-5, you know, a little better.
Yeah. Pitching-wise for Andy, you know, he got a good start out of Patrick Corbin. 6 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, no earned, 1 whip, 3 walks. Alex Young of Arizona got him 6 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, 2 strikeouts, 3 ERA, a 1.50 whip. And Edwin Diaz wasn't good. I'm not going to claim that Edwin Diaz was good. However, Andy won a save.
Edwin Diaz hasn't been good.
No.
Let's just face that.
No.
Like, Edwin Diaz has been awful the whole season, but go ahead.
And, I mean, I can toot my own horn and say that in order to get him, you had to pay so much higher than I did last year on a career year that I think it was foolish to dive in on that guy. But, you know, anyway, he won saves this week, and it's thanks to Edwin Diaz with 2 saves, 3 relief appearances, and he was better than Raisel Iglesias, so I'm going to give it to him. Also, Chris Martin gave him a save over 1 relief appearance, but it doesn't look like that guy's... Is that guy the closer there? It doesn't look like it is.
No, but we seem to mention his name when we talk about his team every single week.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Chris Martin, 3 relief appearances, didn't give up a walk, didn't give up a hit. Here comes, you know, I've never even heard of him, this guy,
No.
Chris Martin.
No. Yeah. Well, with that puts the bow on Andy's chances of making the playoffs. It certainly catapults Mike into number 2 at this point, and we'll see going forward this week where these guys, you know, Andy could definitely play spoiler down the stretch. No reason he can't.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it's just that the offense it really hasn't been solid. He's been 9 and 6 in doubles is nice, but 8 and 8 in runs, 3 and 12 in home runs, 7 and 9 in RBIs, 2 and 14 in walks, 4 and 12 in strikeouts, 6 and 10 in average, 5 and 11 on base percentage. He's just not matching up offensively with his opponent.
No.
It's just not happening. And he's got 6 weeks to kind of right the ship offensively. Well, he's got me on the last week, so I hope by then it dies down. But he can definitely at least make noise and hurt some teams in the process. Agreed.
All right, let's talk about my matchup. I'm not a fan of what happened here, but I took on Nick Homan.
Can I say something about your matchup before you get going?
Sure.
I'm glad I'm not really a betting man. And I'm certainly glad that there's no, that the bigs, our fantasy league, is not something that the world can bet on, because I would have bet a kidney and my life savings on Joe Schubert run line in this one. Mm-hmm. And I would have lost a lot in this process. And that's what's cool about the bigs, I guess, because, no matter what, the manager, the team, on 7 days, anything can freaking happen. So, take us through it. Tell us where you went wrong here.
Well, I lost 11-10, and this one hurts. This one hurts more than losing in a blowout to Jimmy last week.
I can understand that statement.
This one hurts more. This is where I needed to get healthy, and I didn't, and it sucks. Because, losing last week 16-4, I needed to get something back from that. I needed to get back up in the standings, and this fucking hurts. Nick won by an error, a loss, a complete game, a save, and 0.20 ERA. I won by 2 wins, and we tied in triples. For the week, I went 7 for 21 on my bench. It's a .333 batting average with a run, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. None of that matters.
That's good, though, at least, right? That means that nothing really cost you there.
Right. And the vast majority of that is Tommy Pham that I benched in favor of Garrett Cooper. And it was, I think Tommy Pham was hurt, or he was, he was facing a tough pitcher. So I left him on the bench that week. It might have been Chris Sale he was facing. In any event, I didn't leave much on the bench. None of those stats matter because, the walks, I lost by 4. I only had 3. Offensively, my team came to play. My team came to hit. I started off the week on Monday with just a ridiculous output. 371, 6 homers, 15 RBIs, and 10 runs. I'm like, I can coast offensively now. My team came to hit, and we crushed it on Monday. But when you think about it, 10 runs, I got 29 more the rest of the week. 1 triple between the rest of the week, and 2 triples should win you the category most weeks. It didn't.
Yeah.
But this isn't where I lost it. Where I lost it was not offensively. Because I came back in batting average. I only hit .247 for the week, but that won. And I was down in batting average for much of the week. I came back and won that stat. Pitching is where I lost it. We'll get to that in a minute. My weekly moves, I ended up dropping Logan Allen for Zach Gallen. That was fantastic. Gallen was great for me. I picked up Vinny Velasquez, who gave me a good start. I picked up the Griffin Canning move. Frustrated me. I went to bed that night, and the Angels were playing in extra innings, with every intention of waking up first thing in the morning and grabbing Griffin Canning because he's going to start against Baltimore that day. And I did it half asleep, and then woke up later going, oh fuck, he pitched 2 innings in relief last night and got blown up, and now he's not starting? So I had to drop him. Eric Lauer was an ill-advised stream. Sean Anderson was a stream that I picked up in case I needed it for innings. I didn't. And Miguel Rojas was a great pickup late in the week because he did really well for me. He hit, he hit strong. Where's his stat? Oh, I'm still on Monday. That's why. He gave me a homer and 2 runs late in the week. This is a guy that was on Frank's team for a while, and Frank was singing his praises. I'll take him. I'll hang on to him. For Nick, on his bench, he went 3 for 26. It's a 115 batting average. 3 runs, a double, an RBI, 7 walks, and 11 strikeouts. There's nothing you can get there. What he could have gotten is the Yusei Kikuchi start on Friday. 6 2/3, 4 strikeouts, a 2.70 ERA, a 1.05 WHIP. He could have gotten the John Lester start on Saturday, 7 innings, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 1 WHIP, no decision. Either one of those would have put me behind the 8 ball because we were pretty close in innings, we were pretty close in wins, we were really close in ERA and WHIP. Benching those guys had me going for it. If he plays them, his ERA dips even lower, and then I'm not probably pitching anybody. Because, okay, I'll concede that. What happened here was on Sunday, I started Danny Duffy and Jason Vargas. I wanted to lock up innings. I was going after wins, which were tied. And he was... I was ahead by 1, I think. Either way, I wanted to go after as many of the pitching stats as I could. I felt like Jason Vargas against Pittsburgh, coming off of the shutout, would be a great start. And for the most part, when you see a 6-run first inning the Mets gave him, I'm locked in. Okay, fantastic. Just don't blow it. And they almost did, but he still gets the win. Danny Duffy, I wasn't sure I even wanted to start against Cleveland because initially Nick had Wade Miley on the bench. And if the 11 o'clock game came and Wade Miley was still on the bench, I was going to bench Danny Duffy and call it a day. But he threw Wade Miley in there. And Wade Miley pitched well, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, and a win with nothing earned. Danny Duffy gave me 6 innings and a win, 2 homers, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 4 earned, and a 1.50 whip. I lost home runs by 2. Those are the 2. I lost ERA by .2. This is not where I lost it. The late game, Oakland versus Texas. Jose Leclerc comes in, gives up 3 walks. Walks were never close. Pitches to a 54 ERA and a 15 whip. This is a guy I traded for thinking he was going to be the Texas closer. And he loses the game for me. Loses ERA. Blows whip away. Like this was close until this happened. And I end up losing losses because of it as well, because that was tied. I played it right, and my reliever let me down. That's what's heartbreaking. The reliever I traded for, thinking he's going to be the closer of Texas coming forward, when they trade off Sean Kelly or Chris Martin at the deadline to a contender, this is the guy they've invested in. This is the guy they believe in. And this is the guy who blows the week for me. It sucks. Thoughts?
Well, at the end of the day, 10 stats still to your credit. 25 over 500, if I'm maybe 35, whatever it is. You're still in a very good position here. This, to me, the biggest surprise here is that I feel like you had the lead almost throughout the week, at least by 3. I always felt like there was like a 12-9 or an 11-8.
It was 12-9 coming into Sunday.
Maybe he had a 10-9 or a 10-8 lead at him. Maybe he tied it. I did see a ton of times where you guys were tied 10-10. And I thought, when I'm watching this week, and I talked to Nick during the week of some of the starts that he did make. I think we can look through them at some point, but there was a point where I didn't see a reason to start some of these guys on Thursday when he had such an incredible whip that was under 1. He had about 33 out of his 37 innings on Thursday, and he was just going for it, and I was surprised by that decision. And I think his ERA and his whip would have been even better. However, I'll give him credit that through the week he I understand he sits Lester. Turns out that doesn't matter. It wouldn't have made a difference. He didn't have a decision. He ends up winning whip anyway. He ends up winning ERA anyway. And, he played it pretty decently against you, even though I certainly would have strategized differently. I give him a lot of credit because he was facing a great manager in you, Joe, and you did everything you could. The reliever let you down, gets the loss. That's really tough. You don't expect that.
It crushes me.
So it's tough to take, man. But 10 stats is still 10 stats, and you're in a pretty decent position schedule-wise. I think your team's in a pretty good. I think your team is great. I do think you have a lot of good players that are going to be dangerous in the next 6 weeks. So, add the manager to it. If I'm you, I'm exactly where I need to be.
I disagree in where I need to be. Where I want to be is probably a little bit higher than this. I'd like to be sitting kind of where James McCloskey and Jimmy Dunlap are. A good 10 games ahead of 7th place, rather than being the guy on the inside of that bubble. Because anything can happen over the last 5 weeks, and my schedule is not exactly favorable. I got you, I got Bobby, I get James Santangelo, but then I get Jason, Ari, and Mike Sherman. That's 5 really hard matchups in the final 6. That's really
rough.
I
feel like you've lost to a couple of those guys. I think you lost to Ari. I think you lost to Mike Sherman.
I lost to.
Not going to be a slouch against you.
Yeah, I lost to Bobby in week 3. I lost to Ari and Mike Sherman back to back in 6 and 7. So, those. That's what I'm staring down. I got big wins over James Santangelo and Jason early in the season, but those were different teams then. And you. And you. But those were different teams then. The teams look very different. And I said this earlier when we were covering James's team. I really look at the Giancarlo Stanton trade as the catalyst to either. It's a make or break situation for me. If I don't make the playoffs, that's why. And it could be, this would be the second Giancarlo Stanton trade that would cost somebody the playoffs. Benny, you know which one I'm talking about.
Right. I end up getting the bye. It's the fact that we're talking about the year 2017 where you traded away Judge, and I think you also traded away Altuve for Mookie Betts.
Yes.
Right. So, and that ended up winning you a championship. Yeah, I moved Giancarlo to get a closer in Kenley Jansen, and then I followed it up moving Justin Verlander for Andrew Miller right before he was traded to Houston and went on a roll. So I'm almost convinced that if I don't make any trades and I keep Stanton, I keep Verlander, I had Votto that year in Correa. I had an unbelievable team. That probably was my year. But look, man, you made the trade at the time thinking Stanton was coming back, and he had the setback. And let's say you do make the playoffs, and let's say they do bring Stanton back for September. That's an acquisition for you.
It's
a playoff acquisition that you stick right there in right field, and he could produce and win you another championship. So I know it's concerning. I know you'd rather be a little higher, but I'm really thinking it's like, I know, Joe, that you're going to play your ass off for the last 6 weeks. So I have no doubt when we're talking after 6 more weeks, you're going to be one of those guys in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I certainly hope so. Let's jump to key players this week. For Nick, who won, we're going to highlight Miguel Sano. 333 average, 379 on base, 6 runs, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts with 2 errors. DJ LeMahieu, another guy we hit on every single week, 333 average, 474 on base, 2 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, George Springer, 231 average. You don't like that very much, but a 310 on base is respectable. 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, he's got a really nasty 1-2 at the top of his rotation in Jacob deGrom and Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber got the complete game shutout with 10 strikeouts and a walk. That murdered me because I'm already behind the 8 ball with that complete game now. Jake deGrom, 7 innings, a win, 9 strikeouts, nothing earned, an 0.71 whip. That one was against San Diego at home. And Wade Davis gives him 1 inning, 1 relief appearance, 1 save, and it wins him that stat too. That sucks. That sucks, especially considering I traded away 2 closers. For me, Yoan Moncada was great again. 296 average, 321 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a walk, 5 strikeouts, 3 errors does suck because I lost errors by 1. But the guy's been lights out all season. He's been everything I looked for when I drafted him. Francisco Lindor was great as well. 389 average, 405 on base, 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, 4 strikeouts. And finally, Oscar Mercado, who was amazing again this week. 313 average, 333 on base, 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts you don't like. He's a rookie. It's going to happen. You just sort of got to be patient with kids like that. But he has been fantastic for me. Pitching-wise, not names I would have thought of. Jason Vargas, 11 2/3, 2 wins, 13 strikeouts, a 2.31 ERA, a 1.20 WHIP. He did give up 7 walks and a homer, but I'll take the 2 wins. Zach Gallen, who I picked up, 7 innings, a win, 9 strikeouts, nothing earned, 0.43 WHIP, 1 walk. The start was against the White Sox in Chicago. Fantastic kid. I liked him when he came up, and I wasn't able to get my hands on him. But when Mike Haber dropped him on the 14th, I just sat back and went, okay, he had a bad start. He's a rookie. We'll get there. And I grabbed him when I could. I'm going to be hanging on to him for the rest of the season. Finally, Jose Leclerc. He had 4 relief appearances on the week, led my team, and I won the relief appearance category. Everything else sucks. Everything else sucks about the guy. And if I still didn't believe that the Rangers might make this guy the closer because they gave him such that contract as such, I'd drop him. But I invested in him, and I'm going to hang on to him, and we'll see where it goes from here. Thoughts on the key players, Benny?
Well, again, this Mercado guy, I have no idea where he came from, man, but he's just been such a godsend for you. You won a good amount of these offensive categories, walks seeming to be, and strikeouts by a batter. Those are the only ones that you weren't able to catch. But I think you did it, these guys that you just mentioned, along with Tommy Pham, his 4 runs, a double, a home run, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 3 walks, a 300 average, and a 391 on base percentage. The one guy you didn't mention, but you got a great offense here. You got to see what happens going forward. Right now, as far as your pitching, I'd say one of the more underrated things that we've spoke about is your pitching, man. You're 14-2 in innings pitched, 11-3 in wins, 12-4 in strikeouts, 9-7 ERA, 11-5 in WHIP. These are solid numbers. You got a very, very dangerous pitching staff when you manage correctly, when you know who to bench and who to start. You're streaming pretty solid for the most part this year, man. 8-7 in runs, 9-7 in doubles, 8-4 in triples, 10-5 in dingers, 9-7 in RBIs, 9-5 in stolen bases, 6-9 in walks, 4-11 in strikeouts, 7-8 in errors, 10-6 in average, 7-9 on base percentage. Pretty in the middle basically, yeah. But for the most part, I would say over 500. So everything, again, man, I think it's a solid team. Schedule you can certainly compete with, and again, 3-time overall champion, 2 back-to-back. You make every opponent second guess what they're doing right now, man, because of the history. No one knows what you're going to do, and it changes the game. I got you this week, man. I'll be right now telling you that I really have to think really, really hard about every ad that I'm going to make. I knew I had to save some moves last week so that I could make 2 yesterday, just so that I don't have to make as many against you, like going in on the first day. Because you and I are going to go toe-to-toe now for 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just as important to me as it is to you right now, because you're becoming a little bit more of a desperate team. I'm trying to kind of finalize where I am here in the standings and try and, cement that playoff spot. So right now, dude, it's just fascinating what we're going to go through in the next 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be incredible, and this week is gonna be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and jump over to the next matchup, though. It's going to be Jose Told a Story, Chris Levy, who took on James Santangelo, Snell My Shorts. And another upset, man. Another upset this week. We see James Santangelo take it down 12-8 with a comeback win. Close categories this week. James won by a run. Chris won by 2 doubles, 2 steals, and .003 in on-base percentage. They tied in errors. For James, who won the week, 5 for 18 on his bench. That's a .278 batting average, 4 runs, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 5 strikeouts. None of it matters. He won all of those categories. The 5 strikeouts, if he has all 5 of them in his lineup, he ties strikeouts with Chris and doesn't win it. But again, to do that, he would have to be like anti-perfect, and that wasn't the case.
And he probably takes out another guy that had a strikeout.
Right.
So, like, it's almost impossible for James to lose that category.
Right.
I will say we should throw in there was a point where James was on a business trip and he didn't have a lot of Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So he asked me to take a look at the team and make sure the guys were in it, this and that, and I had to take care of it one day. One day he didn't need it, but I took care of it anyway, and I just put guys that were in. And one of them was Profar, and I believe it was on Wednesday, who ended up going 0 for 3 with a walk. And James didn't lose on-base percentage by much. So I don't know how he plays it the rest of the week. You may point at that, for Chris grabbing that stat right there. Other than that, I was able to get, I believe it was Moustakis that wasn't in the lineup that would have gotten stuck in there, and I was able to pull it out for him in time, and he wouldn't have caught that. So where I hurt him, I also helped him a little bit. So I can't really point into it too much, but what I will say is that James did try as hard as he could to spoil this matchup. He really, really wanted. Chris and James have been friends for a really, really long time. So I have a feeling that there was an extra personal matchup going on between these two guys. James beats them both times they played against each other this year. So good for James, good for the rest of the league that knows that Chris Levy, who now faces the man that beat him 18-0, and also, in spite of that, has climbed all the way back to where he is, and he's 20 games over or whatever, 20, maybe 15 games over, whatever he is. An unbelievable season. This would have been kind of a nice icing on the cake for Chris if he was able to beat James, but James worked his ass off this week, and we're going to get into the intricacies because there's a lot of things that both of these managers did, particularly on Sunday, that I found really interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of that, James did drop Rich Hill and picked up Chad Pinder. And on paper, you say, oh, that's like a nothing move. Well, Chad Pinder went, 1 for 3, a run, a double, and 2 RBIs with a walk. That ups his on-base percentage. Ups his, and that's the run. That is the winning run for that category. He doesn't get that. That's a tie. It's 11-8. And as we know, and as we've talked about, every category matters. And Chris doesn't have that one because of this move with Chad Pinder. For Chris this week, he went 10 for 33 on his bench. That's a .303 average. 7 runs, a double, 6 homers, 9 RBIs, a walk, 8 strikeouts, and an error. This was as catastrophic an early start to a week as I've ever seen. To leave that much on your bench, and the vast majority of that is all in the first 3 days. It's Robinson Cano going 4 for 4 with 3 homers and 5 RBIs on his bench, while Vogelbach goes 0 for 4 at first base. It's Jesse Winker 2 for 2, a homer and 2 RBIs on the bench, and Jackie Bradley going 0 for 3 in center field. And the next day, Dan Vogelbach turns around after going 0 for 4 and goes 2 for 4 with 2 homers and 2 RBIs on his bench, and Cano's 0 for 4 at first base. It's as horrible a start to the week as you ever want to see. The rest of the week was fine, but the 7 runs that he left on the bench wins him that stat. The 6 home runs gets him within 1, and then you're playing Sunday trying to catch a homer. The 9 RBIs wins him that category. Everything else is what it is. But those three stats, runs, homers, and RBIs, are directly attributed to the fact that he left 6 homers on the bench in the first 3 days. Moves for the week. Looks like he was chasing a whole lot of pitching toward the end. And I'm kind of surprised given, runs were as close as they were, doubles were as close as they were, average and on-base percentage was as close as it was. All of the moves here, not a single one involves a batter.
Right.
And, when you've got Robbie Cano, who, other than that game where he went 4 for 4, you know what he did on and in the lineup for Chris? He hit 077 for the week. Jesse Winker hit 100. Dan Vogelback hit 167. Michael Brantley hit 217. Trevor Story hit 167. Eduardo Escobar hit 238. And yet he still won average. He still won batting average and on-base percentage. But man, that is cutting it really close when you've got that many guys underperforming and you're not making a move to try to help that out. Pitching-wise, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm amazed, though. Just because, you look at Sunday, and he goes and he gets a big start out of Steven Strasburg. He gets a good start out of Pena. He gets a good start he gets an okay start out of Alex Wood. He gets an under 4 ERA. He doesn't even get through 5 innings. But my point is, he kind of went for it, and it actually doesn't end up burning him. But I do see what you're saying. A lot of these pickups for pitching, where it's good more often than not, it's going to burn you, So that's kind of what happened. His ERA was dog duty this week.
Yeah. Let's jump to key players for James, who won the week. Daniel Murphy had himself a week. 318 average, 348 on base percentage, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Kyle Schwarber gave him a good week as well. 235 average. You're not going to expect much in the average department from Schwarber. 278 on base percentage. You don't like that either. But it's 5 runs, it's 3 homers, 8 RBIs, and only 2 strikeouts. Finally, Marcus Semien, 333 average, 429 on base, 9 runs, a double, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 2 errors. He needed every single one of those runs. He needed just about everything, and to not get a good week out of 3 big names, 2 big names and a supplementary piece. Mike Moustakas hit 091 for the week. Brandon Belt hit 087 for the week, and Jurickson Profar hit 067 for the week. Those are just god awful numbers. Just god awful. You look at the breakdown. Chris went 55 for 214. James went 54 for 217. That is 8 ticks difference in batting average. It's 2 hits. That's it. He gets 2 hits. If he gets 1 hit from Brandon Belt, or 1 hit from Mike Moustakas, and 1 hit from Jurickson Profar, this is a much bigger blowout. This is like a 14-6 matchup.
How about the cojones, though, to go for it on the Sunday night? Because he wanted runs so badly while taking a risk at batting average. He took a risk on the on-base percentage in the night game because he had Jackie Bradley, Cameron Maybin, and Mitch Moreland going in that game. And that could have just blown up in his face if those guys were bad against Sale and Domingo Germán. They actually had pretty darn good games.
Yeah.
Cameron Maybin, 2 for 3, 2 runs, so damn close to getting him that run, at least tying it. The 1 for 4 from Jackie and from Moreland, it was a 1 for 3. That was good enough to hold him for on base and average. So I thought that took a lot of guts just to try to go for the runs, and he doesn't end up catching it.
No, James ends up catching it.
Either.
James ends up catching it with the Chad Pinder pickup. That's
right.
That's where it is. Pitching wise for James for the week, this is a guy that we saw bounce around the league a bit. Roenis Elias has been really, really good for Seattle this year. 4 relief appearances, nothing earned, an 0.30 whip, 3 1/3, 2 wins, and 2 saves. So every time he got into the game, he was getting you a decision, whether it was a win or a save. And seeing that James won both of those categories, wins and saves, and relief appearances, that guy was invaluable this week. Robbie Ray was huge for him as well. 12 innings, a win, a loss. He gave up 4 homers. You don't like that. A walk, 21 strikeouts over 12 innings. That is amazing. With a 3.75 ERA and a 1.33 whip. And finally, Dakota Hudson, 6 1/3, a win, 5 strikeouts, a homer, 3 walks, a 4.26 ERA, and a 1.42 whip. For Chris, again, it was a rough week offensively. You see so many guys that just weren't hitting. I'll give it to Eduardo Escobar because he hit 2 triples. 238 average, 385 on base, 3 runs, 2 triples, 2 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Chris won triples and steals, and it's because of Eduardo Escobar. Trevor Story did not have a good week as far with the bat, but again, he also had a triple and a steal, and you needed every one of those. Finally, the one guy who did hit well, Jose Altuve, 478 average, 556 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, another steal, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Pitching, you nailed it with the Steven Strasburg start. 13 innings, 2 wins, 2 walks, 17 strikeouts, an 0.69 nice ERA, and an 0.54 whip. Josh Hader, 2 relief appearances, a save, 3 innings, 7 strikeouts. Chris took down strikeouts, and that's probably a good reason why. I've said it before, if you can get a reliever who can get you 2 or 3 or 4 relief appearances, get 5-6 innings, and give you a ton of strikeouts like Hader does, that's just another start that you don't have to worry about. Finally, David Price was probably the best of the rest. 6 innings, a loss, 8 strikeouts, a 4.50 ERA, and a 1 whip. Where do you see Chris sitting in 8th place, 16.5 back of first place, with a team in between him and the promised land?
Yeah, I don't know. Firstly, a lot will tell after this week. After his matchup with Mike Haber, how he responds to the 18-0 loss in week 2 will be telling. Because right now he just got spoiled, and it's an opportunity to just bounce back from it. But if he takes another loss from Mike Haber, we talked about his schedule. It's not horrible, but there's definitely some opportunities there for him to run into some trouble. So, good manager, still a pretty young manager. He started out with us in 2014, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 17, 18, so this is his 6th year. So, he's learned a lot, I named him manager of the year once, I believe it was against you, when he just did all this stuff with his pitching. There's still some head-scratching moves, I feel like. We talked about him for this matchup.
Yeah.
Can I see him getting in the playoffs? Absolutely. I can see him finally breaking through and making the playoffs for the first time, getting a few lopsided wins here in the next few weeks. I can see it. I really think this is not an issue with the actual roster. I think this is really a management thing. I do think that he can manage his way into the playoffs. He makes the right pickups.
Sure.
He benches the right pitchers and players. He doesn't leave Cano on the bench for 3 home runs. He's done pretty well with Cano once he realized he was having a terrible season. But very early, he was putting him in. He wasn't hitting. He'd sit him. He would hit. It's a tough thing to do with Cano right now. He's almost a droppable player. I can understand why Chris Levy hasn't. But to me, this is what it's going to come down with Chris. It's just like the acquisitions and the decisions that he makes day to day. Yeah,
I completely agree. We'll see if he's able to right his ship, because the first 3 weeks of this year, he was absolutely dominated by the 3 opponents he has. James, the 2 Jameses and Mike Haber. He only won 14 games over the first 3 weeks, and he was in the cellar. And we were talking about this guy possibly being, a team that would be down there all year. He hasn't been. But he's running into these guys again, and he loses again, this time worse than he did to James in week 1. And here comes Mike Haber off of a big win coming in to face him again. And he follows it up with James McCloskey. So those 2 weeks are really going to tell his season. He could very well turn it around, beat both those guys, and be sitting pretty in the playoffs. But he could also take 2 lopsided losses to these guys and drop like a stone. And I hope that doesn't happen for him, but it's a very real possibility.
Right. Look, if Mike Haber batted for 17 home runs last week, chances are at least he's not going to do that this year. Like, the law of average would say that maybe James McCloskey doesn't throw for a 2.16 ERA in as many innings as he did against Chris Levy as well. So these are the benefits for what Chris is dealing with. That these crazy numbers happened very close to when he was playing them, but not while he was playing them. They just happened. So, like, maybe that works out for Chris.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, and I certainly hope the best for all these teams. I'm going to put this on hold real quick because I have to use the bathroom. I've drank a lot of water during this one, so pause. What a bathroom break. I've been drinking so much water, and we're at about 2.5 hours at this point. Probably going to hit 3 overall. We're going to finish up here with another matchup. Mike Sherman, Kershaw for Passover, took on Josh Haber. Well, I'll be damned. And this was another matchup where Mike needed to get a good win to keep himself alive for the playoff hunt, and he sure did. He won it 14-6. Close categories this week. Mike wins by an RBI, a save, and a relief appearance. Josh wins it by an error, and they tied in triples. For Mike on his bench, he went 8 for 20. That's a 400 batting average. 6 runs, a double, a triple, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, and an error. The triple on his bench was, I don't even know where it is. It was Danny Santana on Saturday, who went 2 for 5 with a run, a triple, and 2 RBIs, and Jeff McNeil went 0 for 4 in left field. Now, Jeff McNeil had just come off of a 3-run homer game, which was also on his bench, and Danny Santana went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts and 2 errors in left field. So Danny Santana alone costs him the errors category and then costs him the triples category by not being in the lineup. So that really hurts.
Yeah, and there's something crazy going on with Jeff McNeil and Pete Alonso being on his bench the day that I believe it was Torres and Voit didn't get a hit.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't change home runs on that day if he decides to make those flips.
Right.
What it does do, though, is at that point, average ended up close, you know? And
Fairly.
he plays with a short bench. So if you switch those 2 for those 2, I think that's the one that we can really look at on that day. Do you see what day that is?
That would probably have been the 26th, which was Friday.
All right, so on Friday. And then I'm not sure offhand if Mike played Jeff McNeil the day they had to pull him early, whether that was Saturday or Sunday.
It was Saturday. No, that was Sunday. They pulled him early on Sunday, and
Mike had him in.
He did have him in the lineup.
Right.
And Danny Santana was on the bench with a homer, a double, and 2 runs scored. So there's a ton of counting stats to be had. At the end of the day, he wins at 14-6. Doubles weren't close. He would have needed to be perfect in order to get the homers that he would have needed to tie. He wins RBIs. Average would have been a lot closer, if not in his favor, if he was perfect. But at the end of the day, this was a really dominating matchup by Mike. That you look to these decisions and you're like, okay, there was still stuff to be had, but I'm good. He won every pitching category except for strikeouts.
Yeah.
And Friday was a great day for him. Herman Marquez, Michael Pineda, and Zach Plesac all go 7 innings apiece, all get a win apiece. They pitch to a 2.57 ERA. A 2.57, a 2.57, and a 0 ERA, respectively.
Yeah.
It was 23 innings.
Shut the door. You can shut the door right there.
Yeah, it was 23 innings, a 1.57 ERA, and a 0.91 WHIP just on that day. He follows that up with Clevenger going 7 innings, a 1.29 and a 1.14. And he still could have started Clayton Kershaw, 6 innings, a win, a 3 ERA, and 9 strikeouts. The 9 strikeouts would have gotten him closer, and maybe he streamed somebody on Sunday. But at the end of the day, he's that far up because Josh had an awful week pitching. Awful week pitching. For Josh on his bench, he went 12 for 46. That's a 261 average. 5 runs, which would have won him the category. 3 doubles. A triple, which would have won him the category. 2 homers. 4 RBIs, which would have won him the category. 2 steals. 5 walks. 11 strikeouts and an error. The error being left on his bench, fantastic. That wins him that category. But the 5 runs, we can point at one guy this week that he kept on his bench all week as the reason that he lost as badly as he did. And that's Adam Eaton.
I know who it is.
It's Adam Eaton. Tuesday, he gets a steal on the bench. Everybody in the lineup hit. Okay, maybe you don't start him there. The next day, 2 for 9 with a run, a double, a homer, and an RBI on the bench. Pollock's 0 for 4 in center. Harper doesn't play right field.
Right, he has a spot open.
Exactly. Wednesday the 25th, we're back to the Kurt Suzuki, Yan Gomes garbage, where one's in the lineup, the other one's not playing, and he's got it the wrong way. And Adam Eaton...
Hasn't there been times also, though, that that happened, but the guy that he had in goes 0 for 4? It's hurt him more than it's helped him.
Absolutely.
I agree with you there.
Absolutely.
I definitely agree that it's... But, there are those times. But, yeah, this is just straight up that you didn't check in time.
No. And here's the thing. I'm willing to believe that if he were to play it correctly, having a platoon like that with Kurt Suzuki and Yan Gomes, they play on the same team, one of them's going to play every day, and they're both really serviceable catchers. If he's able to get them into the lineup every day that they're playing, I think combined they make a really good catcher. No catcher other than Salvador Perez, who's hurt all season, is going to play 150 games. But if you can combine 2 guys to play 150 games, then I think you get good production out of these 2 guys together. Adam Eaton had another double on the bench on Thursday. There were plenty of ways to get him in there. On Friday, he went 1 for 4 with another steal. Pollock was 0 for 4 in center. Harper was 1 for 4 in right. Saturday, he got the triple on the bench. Harper and Pollock were a combined 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts. He picked up Josh Van Meter on the 27th and didn't start him. He went 2 for 3 with a homer on the bench. Scooter Gennett did not play at second base. So he picks the guy up and doesn't play him for the guy that is not playing in the same lineup. It's just bizarre things that happen that it's absolutely the reason he's 45, 47 games under 500.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we could probably say he could make up about 50 to 70 bats with just constantly working on the day. He's more of a plan to the future kind of. He's grabbing these guys because he likes these guys and he's going to have them on his team.
Yeah.
There's occasionally the time where he plays on the day, but for the most part, he's not playing necessarily on the day. He's playing for the week. So that's just he's gotten fortunate against. Unfortunately for you, Joe, because you played him and he pretty much, got you pretty good.
He did.
There's been these just times where he's been there to spoil, but in this case, simply tap to the guy that needed to take care of business to keep this miracle ride alive.
Yeah, he went from 6 games under 500 to now 2 games over 500, and has the bottom team in the league this week to continue to get healthy. Continue to keep his season alive. He's now 23 games back of first place, and he's 11 and a half out of the playoffs. That's doable.
Perfect.
That is doable.
Yeah.
And his schedule for Mike Sherman coming down to the final weeks, it's hard. It is probably one of the 2 hardest ones to get in, but it starts this week with Frank, then it's Jimmy Dunlap, Nick, then you, me, and Bobby.
He can do it.
He can do it.
He can do it.
He can do it. And if he doesn't, he's still going to be a really nasty guy to face, especially for me in the last week of the season. I'm not enjoying the thought of playing Mike Sherman in the last week of the season.
Right, Alonso and McNeil, and those guys are not necessarily going to be sitting. People are going to want to see them playing if they're in Citi Field in that last week.
Exactly. Key players this week: Gleyber Torres. Oh, hang on. I'm on one day. I need to go to the whole week. Gleyber Torres, 250 average, 323 on base percentage, 6 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. I highlight him because of the runs and the steal because he won both of those categories. Fernando Tatis Jr., 423 average, 444 on base, 3 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, 8 strikeouts. The 4 RBIs is the reason I highlight him. And Ronald Acuna Jr., 300 average, 417 on base, 5 runs, a homer, 6 RBIs, 3 steals, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. Just a huge week, and that doesn't include Luke Voigt's great week. That doesn't include, Danny Santana's decent week. Pete Alonso had a bad week. He hit 118 for the week, but he had 8 walks.
He had a big game. He had a big game on the one that he had on the bench. So, we're not counting that big game that he and McNeil had on his bench. So, that should be, it's not incorporated. I'm just saying it should be discussed.
Well, the 8 walks is what really sets Pete Alonso apart from the rest of this team. Yes, he hit 118. He had a 423 on base percentage, and
that's insane. And and on base percentage was won by much.
Yes, and by 20 points. The 8 walks, he won walks by 9. This is exactly that. Even on a bad week, this guy produced for him. It was huge. Key pitchers this week, Yohan Lopez, a guy I had on my team. I thought that, eventually he'd become the closer, but I just didn't have room for him. 2 innings, a save, 2 relief appearances. He might be the closer for Arizona going forward. And if he pairs him with Luke Jackson, who's been the closer for Atlanta for a while, he might have an interesting little bullpen forming here. Mike Fiers, the guy he streamed a no-hitter from, 13 2/3 this week, 3 homers, 6 walks. That's not great, but 9 strikeouts, a 2.63 ERA, and a 1.17 WHIP. And finally, I mentioned Mike Clevinger, 14 innings, 14 strikeouts, 2 wins, 2 homers, 2 walks, a 2.57 ERA, and a 1.07 WHIP. It was a great week for Mike. It was absolutely everything he needed. It's everything we talked about. He went 6-0 in win-loss. 73 innings. A 3.21 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP, and he gets relief appearances by 1. Just a great week for him. And the winning relief appearance comes from Wander Suero, who he picked up on Sunday and got into the game to win it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was clutch. It was absolutely clutch. For Josh, key players, well, let's start with JD Martinez, because we started this show talking about JD Martinez and the trade that happened. Here's JD Martinez showing what he can do. 387 average, 406 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, a walk, but 10 strikeouts. You take the good with the bad with this guy because he's an incredible talent. And this is a week where he carried Josh's team, because imagine where this team would be on this week without that guy. The 3 homers wins him. The 3 homers wins him that category. The batting average most certainly does.
Yes.
And 3 doubles. I believe he had 3 doubles. Yeah, 3 doubles contributes to the 16 he got for the week. Gio Urshela has been really good for the Yankees lately. 435 average and on base percentage. 5 runs, 6 doubles. 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 2 strikeouts. That's the reason he had the dominating win in doubles by 9, was 6 of them from Gio Urshela. And finally, Freddie Freeman, 357 average, 565 on base percentage, 3 homers, a double, 3 RBIs, 8 walks to match Pete Alonso, and 4 strikeouts. He did not win walks, but imagine again where this team would have been without it. The average would have been way down. He would have lost walks by 17. The on-base percentage would have been nowhere near there. He definitely, and again, Josh won average with a 303, and Freddie Freeman hit 357. So it was a great week for him. Pitching-wise, it was a bad pitching week. It was an absolutely atrocious pitching week. He pitched to a 6.91 ERA, a 1.58 WHIP, did not get a win, got 8 losses, gave up 19 homers, but he won strikeouts by 13. So, Chris Archer gave him 10 strikeouts, Aaron Sanchez gave him 10 strikeouts, Gio Gonzalez got him 9 strikeouts. I'm not highlighting anything more there because they were bad otherwise.
Well, Kyle Hendricks, it looks like, had a nice start here. Scoreless 5 innings, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and the .80 ERA. Just underneath it, he got Teheran in for his start for the first time on his team. 6 innings, did take the loss. It wouldn't really matter. 2 walks there, the 6 strikeouts. He didn't give up a run and the 1 whip. So, a couple of guys that you can jump out to.
Sure. So, but when you pair that with Odorizzi, a 20-plus ERA, Sabathia, an 11 ERA, Paxton, a 15 ERA, Archer was over 7, Sanchez was over 6. Yes, those are 2 nice starts, but
names.
they just get buried.
The guys against the Red Sox and then Mets,
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, that will do it for the matchups this week, Benny.
Let me just hold on before we just take off. I just wanted to throw some things at you, things that you might be surprised with as we talk about Mike Sherman's team and going forward. Mike won by 1 RBI. That's incredible, and we could point to just the Adam Eaton thing is the difference between him. That not winning, he wouldn't have won that category. So, but I just want to look at some of these things. He's 7-9 in runs. He's 3-13 in doubles. 10-5 in home runs, sure, but 7-9 in RBIs. All right, the 9-6 in stolen bases. 6-9 walks, 4-11 in strikeouts, 5-10 in errors, 7-9 in batting average, 9-7 on base percentage. Not really. I will say those numbers surprised me, Joe. I really thought that he was actually a little bit better head-to-head. I understand he's only 2 over 500, but one thing that we always talk about week to week is his offense, right?
Yeah.
And just that this is an incredible offense with these guys. It just might be that he's going sometimes head-to-head on some of these categories where he ran into a juggernaut. So that's one thing. Now,
I think it's also true to look at, a week like this or other weeks where, he's got Pete Alonso who has 35 homers, and he has Manny Machado, and he has Ronald Acuna. But you know what those guys are? Incredibly streaky. Some weeks Pete Alonso goes off, and some weeks, like this, he hits 118. I've said before, Manny Machado is not what Mike paid for him. He got him in the 2nd round, and he's returned fringe 2nd round value. I would probably put it more like 3rd or 4th because, sure, he's got the homers, but he's not stealing bases anymore. He's striking out a ton. And he's not the hitter that he used to be. He used to be like a 300 hitter, if I remember correctly. Yeah, So now he's down in the 270s. His on-base percentage is right where it's been, but he's not going to hit, he's probably going to hit 30 homers, but he's not going to drive in 100 runs. He's not going to steal, double-digit bases like he has almost every year prior. And this is a guy who's really streaky. And this week he wasn't terrible. He hit 333 with a 462, but there were no counting stats. There were 2 runs, a stolen base. It was his 3rd of the season. 5 walks and 5 strikeouts. That's it. All
right, just to finish up, 12-4 in innings pitched, 5-5 in wins, 7-7 in losses, 2-0 in complete games, 7-7 in saves, 9-6 in home runs given up, 6-9 in walks given up, 9-7 in strikeouts, 10-6 in ERA, 8-8 in WHIP, 11-3-2 in relief appearances. So this is where it's at. Michael Sherman, against his opponents at least, he's been fantastic. With the pitching. And it's showing. That's why he is where he is, more so than how lethal his offense is with some of his Yankees and Mets bats. Mm-hmm. It's really what he's going toe-to-toe and how he's managing his pitching. Because, I mean, we look at his pitchers. I mean, does he really have a spectacular staff when we're looking at it?
I would say it's certainly in the top probably 5 or 6. You know, Kershaw, Clevenger, right. Marquez when he's right. You know, those are probably his top 3, and he's got it supplemented with, you know, decent guys that need to be good for a week, like Mike Pineda, Mike Fiers, you know, and the bullpen is really strong though. It's Diego Castillo who can close games.
Without cheating, what do you think Mike Sherman's ERA is this year?
Well, I know the best ERA is probably somewhere around 3.4, and that's James McCloskey.
That's good. Nice job. You're pretty close.
I know the worst ERA is still Ari, probably right around 5. So
no, but close.
Okay.
No. He's second to last, but
okay. I would put Mike Sherman's ERA 4.2, 4.3, maybe.
It's good. 4.2.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I think it's just what he's doing up against his opponents. You know, he's playing to the matchup, you know? So he knows there are certain categories they can go for, and he says, screw it. I can you know, to hell with my ERA, you know, and I can just go for these categories instead. So I really think when we look at what this guy has done, and as he goes for something that's incredible when you think about it, if Ari or Michael can somehow get one of these 6 spots, it's going to be so awesome.
Yeah.
And it's going to be heartbreaking for somebody else, but it's just as far as like the ability to go on that kind of a run when you're so down and far away from everybody else at that point of the season. Like, we'll just say, you know, how he managed his pitching week to week against guys, and Trey Water with his offense. He had some awesome hitting guys. It's such an awesome story if he can pull it off.
All right, let's jump to best and worsts of the week, and then I've got some possibly breaking news for you, but we'll get to that in a moment.
All right.
The best start of the week. Go ahead and give me what you got.
I got myself some Shane Bieber against you. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
It's a complete game shutout, and it's 10 strikeouts, 1 measly walk, a .22 whip. It had to be looked at because this is the spoiler of the year, maybe. You know, I realize it's only an 11-10, but of some of the things at this point in the season, there is no way I thought you were losing this one. Yeah. There's no way. Complete game is the one that puts it over, and that's the story.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it to another complete game. I'm gonna give it to Jason, who streamed the Steven Matz complete game against Pittsburgh. It was only 7 strikeouts with an 0.56 whip, but there again, it lowers his ERA a ton. He wins that. He wins whip. He wins complete games. It was a fantastic start and a great stream. You know, especially with a guy who's bounced around this league. You know, he was traded and he's been dropped by I can't tell you how many guys. You know, to pick this dude up and get the best start of the year out of him, I think you'll agree. It might be, when all is said and done, if Jason makes the playoffs, pickup of the year. You know, this late.
Maker.
Yeah. Best weekly offensive performance. Who do you got?
Oh, I guess it was too easy to go to Paul Goldschmidt, but I went with Didi Gregorius on Mike Haber's team, who had an awesome lopsided win this week. 5 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 dingers, 13 RBIs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 errors. You don't like to see that, but the 4.23 average, a 4.48 on base percentage, can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, that was a really strong week. I would go Paul Goldschmidt as well, and it's certainly a good chunk of the reason that Barry upset James McCloskey this week. But I'm going to go with a guy who basically carried a losing effort, and that's Nelson Cruz on Andy's team. Andy got blown out. and he got absolutely blown out. But Nelson Cruz hit .414 with a .485 on base, 10 runs, a double, 7 homers, 13 RBIs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. Without him, this is arguably one of the biggest blowouts of the season, and that includes the 18-0 blowout that Mike had early this year. Without Nelson Cruz, this is an ugly match. Worst starts of the week. What do you got?
All right, worst starts of the week. You can go to a lot of different guys this week because there were a ton. But I'll go to my own guy. Masahiro Tanaka was just awful, and he got into the 4th inning because Aaron Boone wanted him to get into the 4th inning. So he went 3 1/3 until he finally got yanked. He got the loss. He gave up 2 home runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts to the tune of a 32.4 ERA and a 4.5 WHIP. Good enough to force me to change my entire managing style for the rest of the week after Thursday. Miserable start. Sale might have been even worse just because of how important it was. I lose ERA, I lose WHIP, I lose losses. There's a reason why right there when it started with Tanaka.
Yep. I'm going to highlight 2 on the same squad, and that's Josh's starts of Jake Odorizzi on Wednesday against the Yankees. 4 innings, 9 earned, 2 homers, 7 strikeouts. That's a 20.25 ERA and a 3 WHIP. And follows it up 2 days later with James Paxton at Boston. 4 innings, the loss, 7 earned, 4 homers, a 15.75 ERA, and a 2.25 WHIP. It's no shock he pitched to a 6.91 ERA for the week. Offensively, worst performance. Go ahead and give me that one.
Oh, God. I went Brandon Belt. And I saw some really bad ones as I was going through, and we were going through our matches. But Brandon Belt, he didn't have any runs, he didn't have any doubles, he didn't have any home runs, RBIs. He had 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He had an error. He batted for a .087 batting average and a .160 on base percentage. You can look at this guy for teams almost winning on base percentage. You missed out. Just probably needed 1 walk, 1 hit, something from this guy, but the .08, that's just horrendous.
Yeah. I'm going to give it to a guy who really needed to win here. He was sitting atop the standings coming into the week and takes a 5-point loss to Jason Ashby this week. It's Jimmy Dunlap's number 1 first-round pick, and it's Alex Bregman. You look at the matchup here, and he lost by 2 doubles and 3 homers and, a steal, a triple, and a walk. All of that was tied. Could Alex Bregman have given him something this week? He hit .059 with a .238 on base, 3 runs, a double, an RBI, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and an error. Just gave him absolutely nothing. And in a matchup with a guy who's contending while you're in a race, this is not what you want to see from your first-round pick. Just tragic. And Benny, it is time for that wonderful award we give every week. Who's your manager of the week, buddy?
All right, there's quite a few. I'm actually hoping you would throw yours out there first.
Okay, I'll do that, and I'll give it to you. In a matchup against a contending team where you needed to get a win and you were down most of the week, 9-10, 7-11, 8-12, somewhere in there, you get handed an awful start from Masahiro Tanaka, change your entire game plan, and end up doubling up Bobby. You turned this whole thing around in 3 days. Whether it's the Sandy Alcantara start, or the Daniel Norris start, or the Nomar Mazara pickup, or all of the guys you streamed on Saturday to get you where you were. I know that dropping Miguel Cabrera for Aaron Brooks probably hurt you somewhere inside. That
no doubt.
You're giving up Miggy Cabrera for a guy that's not proven, And, you streamed Adam Frazier and you grabbed a bunch of relief appearance guys to try to get that ERA down. And and you put yourself in a position where you're going to throw your ace. And you have to believe that your ace is going to give you a start to get you every single thing you need. It wasn't that far away. It was ERA, it was WHIP, and it was not taking a loss. Unfortunately, Chris Sale failed you, and you still get a double up. Congratulations, Benny. You are the manager of the week, in my opinion.
Thanks, man. And here's what I will say about that. There were times in the week where I was like, oh, I benched Jason Hayward, and he went 3 for 4, and he did some stuff. Oh, I benched Jason Kipnis, and, I didn't really need the Abisail start on Saturday, who only had a double, didn't need a run. But, all those things, they ended up not mattering so much in the offensive side because, then I did things like I made sure I started Jason Hayward on Saturday. He gets the stolen base, and I win that category by 1. So I do think, I did some tinkering things, and I hear what you're saying, man, but I think the decision to get aggressive and go for it with Chris Sale, that's where I count myself out right there because it's a difference in 3 stats, and I just couldn't give it to myself. I was looking at so many different guys here, but shoot, man. All right, here's my thought process. It would have been Sherman if McNeil or Alonso maybe played that day. It would have been Mike Haber, but I saw something coming on at the end, and maybe the guy that I look at the most is Uncle Barry sticking it to James for 7 days, basically. Mm-hmm. And there was, I think, a time where maybe James had come as close to tying it, but Uncle Barry, he had such good strategy going into this, and he followed it through. I realized at some point he had a 14-7 lead, and it shrunk, but he took care of business, and I got to give it to him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I told you we had a bit of breaking news. Now that that's over with. The New York Mets, after acquiring Marcus Stroman yesterday, 9 minutes ago, agreed to another trade involving a pitcher. It's a starting pitcher from our rotation, so we go back to 5 starters. Jason Vargas is on the move, and he is going to the Philadelphia Phillies.
All right.
Along with a catcher currently in the Mets AA roster for yet to be determined coming back.
Okay. So?
Now.
We shed the money. The guy's a free agent at the end of the year anyway. It doesn't matter.
He has an option. He had an option that we could have picked up.
Right. It's a team option, though.
Right. And I think if they were going to move Zach Wheeler, that the team could have thought about picking up that option and going with the rotation as...
I don't think so. I could not see them going and picking up that option, going with Jason Vargas another year. I don't think they would have done that, to be honest. I mean, I see what you're saying, they need a star. At the end of the day, you need to get a rotation somehow. But for what he's getting paid, what is he, $9 million on that option?
Yeah, sounds about right.
I don't think so. I don't think they would have done that.
There was another trade while we were recording. The Brewers made a trade with the Pirates, so another in-division trade. The Brewers acquired Jordan Lyles for a AA right-hander.
Okay.
Other than that, there's rumors that the Red Sox and Mets are in talks, but until that's actually happening, and now with the Vargas trade,
yeah, I think that's Edwin Diaz.
It would be for Edwin Diaz, correct? Guys, this has been a fantastic week again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Benny, thank you again for being here every single week with me, man.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's been fun. Glad to take a monkey off your back if it makes it easier on you. And it's been good banter here. Some magical stuff coming around. If there was one other manager of the year that I had to acknowledge, Ari Nitzman, my own brother, taking it to Frank as we started the show there. Mm-hmm. Give him all the credit in the world. He's got a shot at the moon, but he's got a shot. My brother-in-law, the same. They're coming around, and we got an exciting week ahead. I'm going to enjoy it, and Good luck to you this week, Joe.
Same to you, Benny. And are we going to live by the same rules we always live by? We don't talk again until next Monday?
Man, I don't want to text. I don't want a damn word or call from you for the next 7 days.
Okay.
And I'll talk to you on Monday.
I will talk to you next Monday. Guys, we will see you next Monday. It's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you soon.